Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. And tonight we have returning guest, one of my all-time favorite guests to have on the show. I know it's Jamie's. Is Mike Ricksecker. He's a paranormal investigator, author, researcher. I even had one of my experiences in one of his books. He's written a lot of books you should check out. My story is in Encounters with the Paranormal Volume 2, I believe. If I remember, it's Volume 2. Those are great books you should check out, not just because my story's in it. But tonight, we get to talk about one of my all-time favorite topics. And Mike Ricksecker's written a book about that, too. Time travel. His newest, well, I think his book's almost a year old, but I've been wanting him on to talk about it. Travels through time, inside the fourth dimension, time travel, and the stacked time theory. Yes, we're talking about time travel, baby, tonight. Oh, yeah. That's my favorite topic. I think I saw Nellie Turner from Paranormal Roundtable. I'm in a group. Asked, what's your favorite paranormal topic? I'm like, I don't know. I love so many. And in the night I thought about it, I'm like, it really is time travel. It was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, is it? Yeah, it is. Time travel, baby. Oh, yeah. That's my favorite topic. We're going to get into that. And, of course, a lot of weird news on the World Wide Web of Weird. And sadly, my heart goes out to all those affected by Hurricane Helen, or Helena, however you say it. The devastation's heartbreaking. Anybody out there, have friends, family that are affected by this, I'm praying for them and all. We got a lot to get to. Time travel tonight. Get our spirits up from all the bad news out there. We can talk about traveling away from it through time together with our guest, Mike Ricksecker. Lots to get to. Let's go ahead and get rolling in the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Mike Ricksecker, will be joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird, after our first commercial break coming here in about a half hour. And we're going to be talking about his book, Travels Through Time. I cannot wait. Time travel. I don't get to talk about the subject a lot on the show, even though it's my favorite. It's hard to find great guests on this topic. Not many time travelers we know around out there. Andrew Paswago, I can get him on. Joining me always from beautiful California and beautiful herself, and maybe a time traveler, I don't know, Jamie D. How you do tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, traveling through time. We're in two different time zones. I mean, it's 8 o'clock there, 10 o'clock here. It is like time travel. When we get somebody on from Australia, it really feels like it, though. You see out their window and it's all bright and sunny. It's like a time portal. I don't know if Rob's going to join us tonight. He's been doing the gigs. He's all right. All hurricane, all right. I didn't get to talk to Rob about the damage or anything, if he had any major damage. Did he say?
Clean up, like regular cleanup.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he had a gig tonight, so he's still rocking and rolling, thank God. But so many people affected by this hurricane, it's heartbreaking. It's truly heartbreaking to see the devastation. And like I said, prayers to those people and those families and everybody affected, the people missing and that have already been reported dead. It breaks my heart. It's hard to even look at my news feed with it right now. So let's take our mind off of these tragedies, as horrible as they are. We want to think about other things, weird things. So let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought we'd start off a story we talked about a couple times back. What has it been, over a year now? I don't know how long ago this was. Remember we started getting those unidentified flying objects in, North American airspace, and in Canada, they shot something down over the Yukon. And everybody's wondering what it was. A lot of reports said it was a craft. Well, now there is the Canadian government, I don't think by choice, I think by force, has released a photo, supposedly, of this craft that was shot down. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio network, on the Paranormal radio app from Talkstream, we are a webcast that streams out live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. But if you want me to just narrate and you'll listen, I'll do the best I can. Yeah, which isn't great. So people that know, I'm not the greatest narrator, but here, I'll do my best. Not the greatest at doing all the tech stuff here too. Rob's, I'm just glad he's all right tonight. But you got to play a gig, so that sounds good. So this is supposedly the picture. I got this from Coast to Coast AM. Canadian government releases image of UFO downed over Yukon last year. Tim Binnell here. The Canadian government has released an intriguing image of an unidentified object that was shot down over their country's Yukon territory last year. The media outlet CTV News reportedly acquired the photo as well as some enlightening insights surrounding the picture from an unnamed individual who obtained from the Canadian Department of National Defense by way of the country's version of Freedom of Information Act. The strange cylindrical object was one of the several UFOs that were downed over the North America back in February of 2023, following the appearance and subsequent destruction of a Chinese spy balloon that floated over the United States that we took forever to shoot down. That's my part, sorry, not Tim Binnell's. Although believed to have also been a balloon, the Yukon UFO was never recovered after it was shot down, which caused considerable speculation surrounding the case that has largely been shrouded in mystery ever since. Now, thanks to the diligence of a Canadian researcher, the world can see the peculiar object that prompted an intervention from the U.S. fighter jets, thought to have been taken from beneath the UFO. The maddeningly grainy picture, yeah, it is maddeningly, how do you say maddeningly? Grainy picture shows a white object that resembles a reverse letter C. Ironically, the indecipherable nature of the photo is partially what led to it being kept from the public until this week. To that end, in addition to the image itself, the Canadian Department of National Defense was also compelled to share emails wherein the photo was distributed among officials who discussed the potential release. And talking about the possibility of sharing the picture of social media accounts of the Canadian Armed Forces, one individual posited that despite the UFO being officially described as benign, sharing the picture may create more questions, confusion, regardless of the text that will accompany the post. Remarkably, it was ultimately decided to hold the image back out of deference to the pending U.S. engagement, which led to the photo never seeing the provable light of day until now. I don't know what that is, though. I mean, when they never recovered, is it still out there in the Yukon, whatever the wreckage of it? That's what I'd like to know. But moving on.
They've had it a long time, and why are they doing it now? Maybe because there's a couple other ones that have been spotted recently. They could have showed us this picture a long time ago.
Right. Well, it took a researcher to get. Like I said, it wasn't them just obligating, giving it to the Canadian people or anybody else. This next one from the Metro, and I'll read the Unexplained Mystery version of it from unexplainedmysteries.com. It's a little bit shorter than this version, but Armageddon, the Metro title from the original article. Armageddon-style plan might actually save Earth from a large asteroid. Spoilers for those who have not yet seen the greatest movie ever with Ben Affleck. Armageddon. Soundtrack Aerosmith. No, it was an awful movie. Bruce Willis. God. They literally blow up the asteroid with like a nuke on the asteroid, and in reality that would have like destroyed the Earth. But now they're thinking that you could use a nuke, and I don't know, I just get to the short end of this, but I don't know if read the whole article to you. You can get it from Unexplained Mysteries, or article from the Metro. But they're thinking, I'll just short end this so it's not so long of me reading this, that they can use a nuke at a precise, it'd have to be mathematically precise location where the radius of the explosion be enough to nudge and incinerate parts of the asteroid so it'd send it on a new trajectory away from Earth. That we could use nukes for that. Love the idea. Let's use our nukes to save the planet instead of blowing it up. That's great. And can we put Ben Affleck and a bunch of other people from Hollywood on that nuke on the way up? No. Okay. The best part of Armageddon would have been if Ben Affleck would have been left there, not Bruce Willis. Just saying. I actually like Ben Affleck as Batman, though. I don't know. What you
the
say,
problem is, though, I think it was like why they signed the space treaty when the Soviet and us let off some nukes. The ones in space had ended up melting like cables underground or something, and like ours ended up having some
Oh
catastrophic
yeah,
event.
it's always been worried about putting nukes up there because we were already signed treaties on that, and they were doing Star Wars. During the Reagan administration, they wanted to put nukes up there, to power the
Yes.
nuclear generators and stuff like that. And that would go and violate a lot of the treaties. But a lot of those treaties have fallen apart
And
recently.
that's why they
I'm
signed
just
it to
saying.
begin with. But if
Yeah.
they're going to just try to move to nudge something, I think it's one of those things where the benefits don't outweigh the risks.
Yeah, I think if we, at the moment we decide to get our butts out of our butt, or heads out of our butts, I should say, not our butts out of our head. Yeah, I'm tired. Heads out of our butts on this. And like I was talking about last week when they were talking about, we need to, we're getting better at detecting asteroids. That's great. We need to be putting a lot more effort into figuring things out, using nuke or whatever, some kind of game plan here, because it's mathematical probability that it's going to eventually happen. If we want to just, I mean, I know Mars is the goal
Closest
for Elon
one
Musk
is
and
like
them to survive,
90
but
years and 900 years, something like that,
that we know of.
that we know of.
Space is a very big place, and we can miss a lot.
Yeah.
We're getting better, but I'm just saying we should be geared up, not going, oh, I think 90 years. I honestly, I'm just one of those paranoid people. I think we should just be like, this should be like one of the main biggest endeavors of the space industry is
Wasn't that what
the
Space Force
planetary
is for?
defense from an asteroid. Are they doing anything to try to stop an asteroid? Do they have any plans?
I don't know.
I
That's
think
what I
Space
mean. Like,
Force is about
we
having
have
a
to
military
do.
presence in space. It's about having a military presence in space because we're going to start fighting over resources on places like the moon and Mars if we actually get going there. All right, we better move on. But yeah, that Space Force, that'd be great for them. Stop an asteroid. I think that'd be a
They
big
could
priority.
practice.
Yeah, they can get them that old Atari asteroid game. Okay. I just think it should be a priority for the human race. Maybe it's just me. You got big giant bullets out there that could hit, flying about out there that could hit the Earth and destroy it. I'm just saying. Speaking about going to Mars, though, because that's Elon Musk's plan. I think is like, well, we're not going to do anything to stop an asteroid, so I'm just going to bring me my in people that'll be my followers to Mars, right? Will they all be green? That's the next question. Humans living on Mars could potentially turn green, biologist warns, and they also they don't put it in this headline, could actually go blind too. Creating a colony on Mars would not only be technologically challenging, but also biologically taxing as well. For some time now, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has been talking about sending a shiploads of over 100 passengers at a time to Mars in an effort to found a thriving colony there. But it seems that he has given a little thought to just how difficult it would be to actually survive on the surface. Even if we ignore the technological hurdles of building a substantial base on the red planet, living permanently on Mars is likely to have considerable negative impact on the human body. According to biologist Dr. Scott Solomon of Rice University in Texas, any babies born on Mars are likely to experience significant mutations and involuntary changes due to combinations of exposure to radiation and the planet's lower gravity. Such changes could range from poor eyesight, weak muscles, and brittle bones to the possibility of the skin literally turning green. Such conditions are also likely to increase the risk of various cancers and other illnesses. So does this mean settling on Mars is a non-starter? Not necessarily, but anyone living on Mars would need, at the very least, appropriate protection from radiation as well as various medical interventions to address other negative health effects. I mean, The Expanse kind of talks about that as a book series, and they made into a TV show where the people that have been living on Mars or born on Mars are like taller and thinner. Also, the people
But
living on artificial gravity are also having a bunch of issues in that science fiction. Artificial gravity can have big issues.
one thing I've
Yeah, go
always
ahead.
thought about when it comes to aliens, and that they're always wrinkly with the big eyes and all that. Now, if you were somewhere where you're subjected to radiation all the time, after a while you would think you would evolve to have like big old
Right.
eyes like that, and your skin would get leathery, and that could be just like regular people after a
And
while.
if you look at a lot of mammals and they have eyeballs, they're not usually very big. Very big creatures are still not that very big in proportion to the body size because it's a danger. You could get poked in the eye by nature and things. But if you're some kind of artificial organism or you're like a evolving species in space that don't have those kind of threats, maybe your eyes start to get bigger. Maybe the gravity
Like
affects it.
The animals deep down in the water, they always have those really big black eyes.
Yeah, and then they can develop things like bioluminescence and stuff.
Hmm.
Life finds a way. Jeff Goldblum, Jurassic Park. Okay, moving on. I like Green Girls too. Orion Girls from Star Trek. Oh yeah, Kirk hit that stuff. All right, moving on. Sorry, trekking out. All right, more on to some Ancient Aliens. Mike Ricksecker, you see him on Ancient Aliens. Great show. Great. I always love when I see Mike Ricksecker on Ancient Aliens. Well, 300 previously unseen Nazca geocliffs discovered by AI. Of course, AI coming along here, finding stuff we're not, right? In Peru. Situated on a remote plateau in the southern Peru, the Nazca lines are a series of spectacular artistic designs, including images of spiders, monkeys, hummingbirds, fish, and lizards that were skillfully etched into the desert floor approximately 2,000 years ago. The most prominent designs were produced by removing the red-colored pebbles that litter the desert to unveil the white, dusty ground beneath. Some of the drawings are huge, to measure up to 200 meters across. The precise number of geoglyphs presented in the regions has long remained difficult to determine, mostly due to how worn and indistinct many of them have become over the years. More recently, however, artificial intelligence has enabled scientists to pick out even the most faint examples, bringing these long-lost pictographs to light after being hidden for centuries. Now, following a research effort spanning just 6 months, scientists using AI unveiled a whopping 303 previously unseen geoglyphs, essentially doubling the known total number. The new designs include both human-like figures and animals such as birds and fish. One of the weirdest has been described as a killer whale holding a knife. Exactly how many more geoglyphs remain discovered in the region, however, remains to be seen. And there's some of them up there. Which one is the whale holding a knife? And it's hard for me to see these. But I got this Unexplained Mysteries Journal article. Live Science has them. All right, let's move on. Let's see, what do we got next? Oh, we were kind of talking about this before once, not long ago. About like why did we do things like put stakes to the heart of the dead to hold them to the ground, stuff like that? Why do we fear early on? Why we bury our dead, or why we fear? Is it because we saw the ghosts of the dead, or did they rise? These kind of things. Archaeologists in Germany have unearthed a revenant grave. I love the term revenant. I've always been in love with that term. Where a man was buried with a large stone on his chest to prevent him from rising from the dead. What does it take? What scares somebody in those days that they felt they had to put a big stone on this guy's chest, even though he was dead?
Something had to have happened one time somewhere.
Right. The eerie grave was one of several discovered at the gallows site near the German town of Koldenberg in the state of Saxony-Anhalt, if I got that wrong. Probably did. It is believed to date back to the 17th century. At the time, there was a great deal of concern among the people that under certain circumstances, the body of the dead could rise again from the grave as a revenant to haunt the living. I always liked the idea of the revenant, like they're a really wicked person that they just evil, did horrible things, and they're executed. But then they come back, unless you do something to the body to hold it in. Like put the huge stone on them. Like somebody had to have been pretty evil for them to want to be scared this bad. Yeah. So this large rocks would be placed on the top of the bodies to stop them from moving. Other methods used include spraying the bodies with incense, binding the arms and legs together, and placing wooden crosses on the graves. These were people who had possibly died an early death or sudden death without confession or absolution, archaeologist Marita Genesis told Live Science. Well, it's near gallows. Does that mean that this was somebody who was executed? It was feared that they might return from the realm of the living. Various measures were taken to prevent the deceased from doing so. But, seriously, we know for reasons of body smelling, decay, whatever, we probably, our early ancestors decided to start burying bodies to try to, they didn't want to see them eaten by other animals, stuff like that. But, we've seen the cases where the fear of the dead returning in so many cultures in the past. It's like you wonder, were there ancient zombies? That's what I think of when I see these things.
The iron just around a cemetery.
All right, let's move on to the next. Got a Bigfoot photo that's been circulating a lot. Rocky Mountain Sasquatch, I think, is the website where you can get this from. If I remember right, yeah. This is the Zoom. Yeah, here, hold on. Before I do this one, let me do this one. This is the website. Oh, come on, pull it up. All right, yeah, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch. Sasquatch sighting captured on a camera near Tulsi Lake on Navajo Nation. Tim Biddle from Coast O's has an article on it. A compelling photograph from the Navajo Nation shows what appears to be the first silhouette of a sizable figure that witnesses believe to have been Bigfoot. The intriguing picture was reportedly snapped last month by an individual fishing at the Tasali Lake on the reservation situated in Arizona. I noticed movement on the left side of my peripheral vision, recalled the witness, who indicated that he rose to his feet to better look at the interloper and observed something reddish with lots of hair approximately 750 feet away. Uncertain what he was seeing, the man snapped a few photos of the figure as it moved across the field of the 5-foot-tall bushes towards the lake before seemingly changing its mind and returning to the nearby forest. It made no sound, the witness reported, but the way it walked was not like a person. At a big strides, based on the fence posts that the creature passed during its stroll, the man estimated the Sasquatch was around 6 or 7 feet tall. It was a surreal moment for me, he mused, noting that we do have sightings here in Chuska Mountains, our area here on the reservation. Let me see, get the zoom-in photo here. Hold on. Zoom in more. I mean, it's pretty dang blurry. You can kind of see that it's like almost reddish hair, but you really can't make out much. But interesting. Interesting. I like Rocky Mountain Sasquatch, though. It's a good site. And, you know, it's not a lot of great places to get Bigfoot information or evidence. They always have a lot of good stuff, you know. I like that it's got a person's testimony, you know. Could be something. I don't know. On to this last one. I can get the picture to work. Come on now. Oh, I really feel like the world is falling apart somewhat. World's first immaterial sculpture sold for $17,000 in Europe. You might ask, what is an immaterial sculpture? It's a freaking glass box with air. It's nothing. It's literally nothing. Somebody sold a piece of art that is literally nothing. I am not joking. I mean, we've had blank canvas sold, and like, look at the empty space. Yeah, I'll get $20,000 for that. Thank you. No, this is $17,000 for. I mean, I guess I'm getting a nice glass case. Italian artist recently made headlines with a sale that pushed the boundaries. Really did. Conventional art. Salvatore Garu. A Sardinian-born artist sold an invisible sculpture for over $18,000, leaving many in the art world and beyond questioning the very nature of art and value. It should make you ask some questions.
Probably got the idea, too, off of chatbot.
The sale organized by an Italian auction house, Art Right, in May saw Garo's piece titled La Sonia, I Am, that's what it translates to, go to an unidentified buyer. Yeah, this person doesn't want to be known, I guess. The invisible sculpture was initially estimated to fetch between $7,000 and $11,000, but the final price soared to $18,300, reflecting the growing interest and curiosity surrounding such an unconventional art forms. Garo's work was not just about the absence of physical form, but the presence of imagination. I can imagine $17,000 still being in my pocket, or what I could do with $17,000. I can't imagine what I do with an empty thing of air. I hope he farted in it. Seriously, at least give him something. I bet he did. I think this guy was like, oh, these rich toity people know. They're art critics. I'll just give them an empty box of my fart air. I don't know.
Take a bat to it, though.
This is what you don't see it, but it exists. It's made of air and spirit, Garo says in a video. He likened his work to the concept of God, a powerful entity that many believe in despite never having seen it. Whoa, jeez. Whoa. But, you know, I'm not mad at the artist. It's good for him making $17,000 off of nothing. The rich person
somebody wanted to buy it.
Somebody wanted to buy it. That's what I'm saying. There's some rich a-hole out there with this glass sculpture going, do you have an
This is the most pretentious blank, you know?
Yeah, like, do you have an immaterial sculpture? I do. Right over there. You see that glass box? Yeah. Don't mind the smell. You know, like, fresh fart inside.
And no flash photography.
I mean, it just shows, you know, like AI is getting more creative than the people. We need true artists. Where's the Michelangelos? Where's the Da Vinci's? Oh God. I mean,
Really
like,
hard to
this
watch
is what we're
language
faced.
on.
The world's first immaterial sculpture. Yeah. What's next? I mean, we already did the blank canvas. Now the immaterial sculpture.
I mean, at least the chicks in the bath are selling their bath water, and you see her in the bath with the water. She's selling her little vials of water.
At least it's material.
Yeah, you're getting something.
You're getting something.
And the girl that does fart in the jars again.
All right. Well, I think we've had enough of the weird tonight for this. We want to talk about time travel. Our guest tonight is Mike Ricksecker. We're going to be talking about time travel tonight. His book is Travels Through Time, Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel and Stack Time Theory. It was one of my favorite topics. I cannot wait to talk to our guest, Mike Ricksecker, tonight after this short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one in a... Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real. A must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Mike Ricksecker. Researcher Mike Ricksecker is the author of the Amazon bestseller, A Walk in the Shadows, a complete guide to shadow people and Alaska's mysterious triangles, as well as several historic paranormal books. He's appeared on multiple television shows and programs, including History Channel's Ancient Aliens and The Unexplained, Travel Channel's Alaska Triangle, and multiple series on Gaia TV and more. As I mentioned before, I'm also in one of Mike's books with My Shadow Person Experience and Encounters of the Paranormal Volume 2. I am a huge fan. My biggest probably topic in the paranormal things to do, and I don't get to talk about it much on the show, is time travel. Yes, it is one of my favorite topics. Art Bell also is, I'm a big fan of, and it was his favorite topic too. One of the things we shared, I love time travel. As a kid, I was fascinated by it in so many ways. I mean, I don't know how many times I watched Back to the Future, Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure, and of course, Art Bell's favorite, my favorite, Somewhere in Time, which I've been made fun of a billion times from family and friends for loving that movie. I don't care. I love it. It's number one top favorite movies of mine. Time travel, man. My wife says it makes your brain hurt. Well, I'm going to try not make your brain hurt tonight, but it might hurt a little. Just be warned. But I think there's a way around these paradoxes. We're going to talk about things like stacked time theory and other instances of time slips and all that. You've got to check out Mike's book, Travels Through Time, Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel, and Stacked Time Theory. We've got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get to our guest. Hey, Mike, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good, man. I have this book on my Christmas birthday wish list. I still have not got it. I'm like, along with, I just mentioned to my wife, I said that. So, what else has been on there is the Bruce Gurden, The Fog. I want that book too. I have, when I was in the 90s, when I listened to Art Bell, he's like, my favorite time travel. I'm like, anything to do with time travel. I know he had some pretty wild people on their show on time travel. It didn't matter. I didn't care if they're believable or not. I just, anything topic-wise, time travel. I'm on board. Let's ride. Let's go. So you wrote a whole book on this. You've written a lot of different books in the paranormal field. What brought you to this now?
Somewhere in time.
Yep, I knew it. I know. I will admit, I had to take a sneak peek a little bit tonight because Dr. Heather Lynn has her own YouTube channel, and she just released the interview with guys, and I heard you say that. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we're in the same wavelength here, man. That is ultimate. I've showed the trailer of that movie to my sons because I got them to watch a lot of my old dad movies. Okay, and they've shot me down every time I've tried to bring it up. Like, remember, I'm like, I know the trailer's old looking, but just give it a shot.
I mean, the trailer's from like 1980, so that's probably not going to cut it. And I mean, at its heart, that movie is a romance.
Yeah,
but it has that time travel, sci-fi type element to it. And what's wonderful about it is Richard Matheson, who wrote both the book and the screenplay for it, is he actually was a student of the nature of time. And so like in the movie, they show Richard going to the library. Well, in the book, he does go to a library. He does also go to bookstores. And in addition to trying to find information about Elise, he's also trying to find information about time and time travel. And so in the book version, he actually picks up a couple of books on the nature of time, which are actually books that Matheson used in his research.
Right.
And you can actually go and buy them and pick them up and read them yourself. So like J.B. Priestley's Man in Time, in the book version of Somewhere in Time, it's like Matheson does like an entire book review of that book, because the actual novel, which was originally Bedtime Return, and they ended up renaming it Somewhere in Time. It's a journal, written by Richard, and so that whole chapter is an entire breakdown, like a book review of that particular book. So it's so I had to go get that as well for my own research. Okay, what was Matheson tapped into? Because I believe real time travel isn't going to be like a DeLorean and a flux capacitor. It's going to be,
even though that'd be really cool.
It would be really
cool.
It would be really cool. I'd love it.
My aunt had a DeLorean when I was a kid, and I was just like, let me ride in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. But it's going to be more something having to do with consciousness, meditation, that sort of thing.
I mean, you see it with if you get into like the gurus of India and Tibet and the altered states, again, another movie I've been made fun of for loving, but where people are able to, put themselves in a different state of being, not, where they can touch upon some other realm in a sense. And then you have the instances of time slips, that have happened in, throughout history and maybe modern days, where people suddenly see, some people call it ghost stories, or playbacks or whatever, but maybe are people actually slipping through and seeing, time, seeing another time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the hauntings and things like this that people see, or what some people might call a residual haunt. Sure, some of them, fine, some of them will be a residual haunt, but a lot of them we're misunderstanding and are actually time slips, or like a lot of these sightings of what we call doppelgangers, where people are seeing, themselves, or maybe, they'll see a friend of theirs walk into a room, and all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, the same friend walks into the room again from the other direction. It's like, well, I thought you just came in here, and it was a time slip.
I've been fascinated by time slips, time portals, people disappearing. David Pilates, Missing 411. Before that ever came out, even as a kid, I was always fascinated by missing people. The mist, the people walk in the mist and disappear kind of deal. Was anytime I'd see a field of mist, I would, so I have that feeling like you could step in at any time, you could disappear into another realm. I'm a big Stephen King fan, the Dark Tower series. I don't know if you've ever read Stephen King, but he really is into this, I think, because he really weaves his stories together with this whole Dark Tower and this other kind of parallel reality that runs alongside ours.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I like the work that David Paulides does. And in my upcoming book, I have, which is Portals to the Stars, and that's coming out later. I was about to say later this month. It's not quite
it's like Stargates?
October yet. So end of October, Portals to the Stars, Inside Stargates, Atlantis, and Secrets of Ancient Egypt. So I have an entire chapter in there on portals in the wilderness. And so it does dive into, that idea of, not even that idea. I mean, you hear the stories of, the people that go disappearing in the woods, but some people do come back. Not everybody just disappears off the face of the earth, but some of these people that come back tell the most fascinating stories that, they're walking on the path out in the woods and they hear a noise off to the side. So they take 2 steps off the path, look around trying to find the source of the noise, can't find it, turn back around, get on the path, and the path is gone. Like they took 2 steps. How did the path just suddenly disappear?
Right.
And now they're lost in the woods for like days on end. So, so did that transport them to maybe somewhere else in the wilderness? Did that transport them to another point in time before the wilderness even existed, or before the path existed, or maybe push them ahead in time at some point later. So yeah, it's really fascinating hearing those accounts, because a lot of these people just disappear off the face of the earth. But like in my book, Alaska's Mysterious Triangle, in the television show, the Alaska Triangle, we covered like missing airplanes, and the idea that some of these missing airplanes, and Bruce Gernon, like you mentioned, has a fascinating account down there in the Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, where basically he's flying through some sort of portal, and he skips ahead in time by like an hour and a half or something like this. And in Alaska, we hypothesize, some of these missing airplanes, there's so many of them, could have passed through some sort of portal that was spawned up by the energy of the triangle. So where did they go? And so one of the ideas I've thrown out there with that is, well, let's say, sure, they could go to another dimension or something like that, but what if they went to another point in time? And what if it was like, and just throw an arbitrary number out there, what if they went 500 years in the past? Well, what would an indigenous person think of an airplane up in the sky 500 years ago? Because they would have no context of an airplane. So they would think loud, thunderous bird. Are these some of our Thunderbird legends? Are actually planes that have passed back in time?
Yeah. Look at the hieroglyphs, that show what look like helicopters,
At Abydos. Yeah, and that's controversial, because you can make a case for that there were older hieroglyphs there that were plastered over, and then
somebody
and then
faked it.
And then the plaster, and then they recarved and plaster fell out and that sort of thing. I do touch on that in the upcoming book, because I do talk about the stargates of ancient Egypt,
right?
And Abydos has a lot of that stargate symbolism there.
I maybe that's the explanation, or maybe it's just like all the rest of the hieroglyphs there, and they're telling us what they saw. There was a show in 2011 that I was so sad when they canceled it. As all the best sci-fi gets canceled in its first season.
Right.
2011 was called Terra Nova. Did you see
I
that?
haven't seen it. No.
Okay, so in Terra Nova, the premise is that it's in the year 2149, if I remember right, and we've just totally destroyed the planet with pollution and all that stuff. Like things are going.
Mm-hmm.
And so our answer is to, of course, leave this planet, not fix it, and go back 65 million years in the past, because they discovered that they can travel back into the past without affecting the future. Even going, because there's the butterfly effect. Even going back 65 million years might affect your future, because it's a parallel past timeline.
Okay.
And they go back and start a new civilization 65 million years in a parallel past timeline with dinosaurs and that.
Well, wouldn't they have affected the futures of the people in that parallel past timeline?
Yes. Well, then again, they make a new timeline, or maybe it's they make a new timeline at the moment they arrive. Now it's a split and it's a new timeline, or it is just a past parallel timeline. It looks like our past somewhat, but they're going to affect they're going to pollute somebody else's. But if there's an alternate version of them in another parallel timeline coming to our past, things start to get kind of like just as screwy as paradoxes. But it's something that's fascinating. This concept of almost paradox-free time travel in a sense.
Yeah, and you see some of these sci-fi stories where somebody goes back into the past, and it seems like they have manipulated or changed the past. They have affected it to some degree, but then you come to find out, like, no, that was always the case. It was like as if they had always traveled back into the past. So it's the idea of future influencing the present and future influencing the past. Yeah.
Yeah. They've done that with, it was that good movie with, I think, where they go back, they have like a portal goes, it was a Michael Crichton novel. Because I read the novel too. What was it called? But that's kind of how it is. They found out they were always destined to go back there, because they find the graves of those people that got stuck back in the past. Like it was always predestined to be there.
They were always there.
They were always there.
Yeah, and I actually have a real life example from my personal life that actually we believe it may actually be one of those incidents of the future influencing the past.
Really?
Yeah. So this was with myself and my fiance Jennifer, and anybody who just watched the episode on Gaia on Wednesday, I talked about this there as well. But so We've known each other since first grade. It was kind of it was a bizarre little incident. So we're in the school library together, and we hadn't really had much interaction up to this point. But all of a sudden, I'm looking through a stack of books, and she just comes right up next to me and plants a kiss right on my cheek, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what was that?" Blushing and all that stuff. Had no idea what to say. It happened. And it's not like we were destined,
Right.
and we were together ever since. No, we kind of went about our childhood. We were in fourth grade together, seventh grade together. We kind of like quote unquote went out for a month there, but I was too scared to hold her hand, so it didn't didn't happen. And then I moved away in eighth grade, and we didn't have any contact for like 21 years until social media came along, and we got we connected. And we started talking and just catching up. Hey, how's life going? That sort of thing. I was married at the time. She was with somebody. And at one point I asked her about the kiss. What the heck was the deal with the kiss in the library? And she kind of shrugged her shoulders, like I don't know. Something told me to kiss your cheek. Okay, so over the years we stayed in touch. Occasionally we'd get together for dinner and that sort of thing. But 2 years ago, she came on my Ireland tour. And we were both single at the time. We hit it off really well, got together. We've been together ever since. So we decided to go visit our old haunts back in our old hometown when we were in school together. And we went back to the school, which is it's a performing arts center now for the university that's there. And so we're kind of walking around the grounds, peeking through windows, that sort of thing. And we get to the windows where the old library was, which they've kind of now turned into like a little music room or something. And we start pointing at the spot, hey, that's where the kiss happened. And Jennifer starts yelling through the window, kiss him. And, we're laughing about it, giggling, that sort of thing. It's kind of funny. But it dawned on us later, like, wait a minute. She said that something told her to kiss my cheek back in first grade. So was it her 40-something-year-old self calling back through time? Did that vibration go all the way back to when we were 6 years old? And that was the thing that told her to kiss my cheek. So that idea of future influencing the past.
I just got goosebumps from that. That is an awesome story.
Do you remember mine with my wife, Jamie?
Oh, yeah.
Mine's a bit more uncomfortable.
Oh?
Me and my wife went to grade school together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think we started she came here in the fourth grade.
Okay.
And I was in the fourth grade. I one night had a very uncomfortable dream I didn't totally understand because, I'm in fourth grade. It was very mature content with a woman, and I'm older in the dream. Yeah, very confusing for a fourth grader.
For a fourth grader, yes, it would be.
But I knew who she was. She was my wife, because I had a class, but never talked to her.
Uh-huh.
We had a class together, but I went to class that day, and I saw her, and I froze up and realized that was her in the dream. Like I knew her.
Okay.
So I was confused. I even made up, like, what boys do. I'm trying to explain this to my son, what kids do to each other to get their attention. Sometimes if they like somebody or whatever, I made up a nickname for her, especially because she came to school
Don't
as a.
say it.
I've told it already. She knows. She almost got divorced me when she found out I was the one that made up the nickname that everybody pestered her with. Because first it was Chipmunk. She looked like a little cute, chipmunk. Like, I don't know. She's so cute. But I just called her Chipmunk, to my friend, and my friend pestered her with it. And then she came to school as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I said, oh, look, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Chipmunk. And he busted her with that. Her mom said if I would have known that was the nickname you gave her, I would have told her not to marry you, because it almost ruined her whole grade school.
Oh, my God!
I luckily held that story until after the ring was on the finger and the ceremonies were done. Right?
Ouch.
Right. But I saw it, Mike. I had other dreams of the future. I've had other dreams of the future. I had not even a dream. This is why I'm fascinated with time travel, because of dreams and visions of the future. How does that work? When I first was going to when we first had our first date, I pictured us going camping this place in Red River Gorge, Kentucky. And I saw an image in my mind of her wearing this blue bandana, in a tank top and these denim shorts, and her turning and looking at me and smiling. I saw this flash of an image. 6 months later, we go on a camping trip, and I literally going to take a picture, and she turns and smiles just like the picture is just what I saw.
Nice.
In the future.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is that all time is ever present, past, present, future. It's all here right now. Time itself doesn't really exist. It's just a human construct that we've put together, kind of describe the reality that we're in. It's a mechanism for us to keep track of our lives. So, like, when to, when the bus is going to stop at the bus stop, when to show up at work at the right moment, that sort of thing. So all of that information, all those moments are already there now. Like with dreams, or you could be washing the dishes and get into like that little meditative state and tap into some of this stuff too. But you enter into a different brainwave state, and that means your consciousness can become free floating sometimes and pick up on this information, or go visit that moment and see it happen, or it can download. I call it eternal knowledge. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. People call it the Akashic records. It's all really kind of the same thing. It's all the knowledge of the universe that's out there to be able to tap into. And so when you enter these different brainwave states, you can access that, or you can visit other moments in time. Yeah.
I've had it so much in my life. There was one time I dreamt that we were going to get pulled over after my wife was too much to drink. My wife's gonna love this episode. And where she was like, pull over, I'm gonna puke. And I said to her, I go, it hit me. I'm like, I've dreamt about this before. We've been here. I've done this. If I pull over and you start puking out the door, there's gonna be a cop that pulls up right behind us. We're out in the middle of nowhere, pitch black country. Our chances of running into a cop out there are very slim. But sure enough, I pull over and she opens the door, starts puking. Like, I saw the whole thing before it happened. I've had this so many times in my life, and I actually saved. See, and this is the question: is things predestined or not? I had a dream when things hit me hard was 6th grade. Going into 6th grade, I had that summer a friend's birthday party, and all that summer I kept having deja vu. Like, things I would dream about would be like instantaneous to happen the next day. It was like getting to the point where I felt like I was losing my mind as I was 11 or whatever. And one of the dreams I had was my friend, me fighting with a knife. Like, he had a knife and we're fighting. Well, we pull up to his birthday party, and it's at this big farm place his grandparents had, and I knew the moment we got there, the dream hit me. I remembered, I almost knew everything that was going to happen that day, that night, and when he went into the house alone, because he was really upset, my friend's like, leave him alone. I said, no, and I ran in there, and there he was with a knife to his wrist, and there I am, ended up fighting with him just like I did in the dream.
Oh, wow.
Did that get me to save him? Like, did that change things? I have another instance where I dreamt my buddy was going to have a girl call me to try to get me to come out and basically cheat on my soon-to-be wife.
Oh,
because he
geez.
didn't like her. And I had the dream about it, and in the dream, I went along and went around, and things happened and it ruined my relationship with my soon-to-be wife in the dream.
She's really going to love this episode.
Right. Well, I get this call, and this girl's like, hi. And I'm like, put Chris on the phone. She's like, what? I said, no, he put you up. I knew right away everything. Yeah. He's like, how did you know that? How did you know this girl was calling, that I set her up, and it was me? Like I said, I dreamt about the whole thing, and you were trying to get me to screw up.
Yeah.
So I changed it.
You did. Yeah. And so I don't believe in predestination, that, we still have the ability to change the future, even though everything is here. But our decisions along the way will change those things in the future. So once you I don't believe in it splitting off into all of these different like multiverses. Like, every decision you make, all of a sudden, another.
Like every possible, somewhere out there, I'm Batman.
Yeah, no.
Right.
It's all contained within this universe, but when you make that decision, it changes the way that the future now is. So, and same thing with the past. So there will be things that that will happen. Like, if we do have a time travel moment and we interact with the past and it changes, that's where something in the past will get changed, and we start having like the Mandela effect moments and things like that. So we have the ability to change the future or the past, but it's all still right here. So yeah, you got a glimpse of a possible future. In fact, the way that he had already set it up, that you got a glimpse of that future, because he had set it up for that to happen. but because you made a different decision, now that doesn't exist.
Right. They're like,
Yeah.
Maybe both possibilities existed until that point. Both timelines, and then close the quantum field down, like Schrodinger's cat.
Well, so,
is it
and
alive
that's
or
the thing
dead?
is, I don't believe it's like multiple timelines like that.
Right.
I believe it's all still one timeline, but everything was already set up to go on that path. But because you changed it because you made a different decision, it changed what that path became. So it's all still right there, though.
But like I said, I saw that reality. Like,
Yeah.
is that a ghost dimension? Did it
Because
exist?
because he had already set it up to happen. Yeah.
Debbie from the chat room here, she says, Mike, are different timelines based on different frequencies, or is it related only to brainwave states? I think we could definitely access them better through theta as opposed to beta or alpha.
Yeah. So we're kind of in a way talking about two different things, and this is one of the reasons why time travel is difficult, because not only every person has their own personal resonance. Everything is frequency, resonance, energy, vibration, that sort of thing. So yes, we have our different brainwave states, our own personal resonance, toroidal field that surrounds, all that fun stuff. But every moment in time also has its own frequency as well. So when I talk about stacked time theory, so the idea is that take where you're sitting right now. Every moment that has happened, is happening, and will happen are all right there, right now. Each moment in like a photograph in a giant stack of photos. And each of those photographs, each of those moments has its own frequency. And sometimes we don't really quite understand what the catalyst is, but sometimes two of those moments will resonate at the same frequency for a moment, and we'll see what we call a time slip or something like that. But you're really talking about three different frequencies that have to really, for us to travel, have to really be in tune with each other. Two of those moments, so they can resonate together, and then yourself as well. So yeah, there's a lot that we're talking about here when it comes to frequency.
I see. Sometimes I wonder too if it's also. I mean, you call it space time, and they're one in this. Together in a sense, space and time are really one thing, at least maybe from another dimensional point of view. But to get the fact that you this is where your brain starts to hurt, right? Right. I mean, this is where my wife's like, "Stop talking about time travel."
No, geez.
But you have if I'm on Earth, okay, let's say I have a DeLorean. Okay, let's say I have a DeLorean and I can travel at 88 miles per hour and go back in time. Okay. Am I traveling from that point in my spatial reference? I'm on Earth on this part of space. Earth is traveling through space. What's my spatial reference? Is it Earth, or am I going to end up in outer space suddenly as I skid off in the DeLorean? And there's no fire train tracks in space because there's no air, and I'm stuck on space in DeLorean because I literally. You get what I'm saying? Like
I do. So I have to say this because this is usually something that I bring up in an interview on occasion. I've been asked this type of question one other time. It was by my uncle, who is a retired nuclear physicist. So he lives on San Diego. He was visiting last year, just after my book was published, Travels Through Time, and he was spending time with my aunt. He was staying over her house for a few days or whatever, and she's in the kitchen trying to prepare stuff for breakfast or whatever meal it was during the day. And he kept coming in. He's like, he loves memes, right? This super smart nuclear physicist loves memes. So he's like coming up to her with the phone, check out this. She's like, stop. I'm trying to do stuff in the kitchen. Why don't you go read Mike's book? So he's like, okay, I'll go read Mike's book. So he picks it up, blows through the whole thing. And so when I came over a day or two later, we're sitting down, we're having a glass of wine. So he's like, so I read your book. And I'm like, oh, geez, this is litmus test right here, a nuclear physicist. And he was like, I agree with everything that you're talking about, but I have one question in regards to this. He's like, everything makes sense, but, and that was the question, if you have this idea of stacked time theory, everything's stacked up. He's like, well, 20 years ago, in space, the Earth was in a different location because of the
Right.
expansion of the universe. So how do you account for, if you want to travel from now to back then, that Earth is actually physically in a different spot? And so I took a sip of wine, took a moment, I was like, that's a very good question. And I answered it with one word: entanglement. We are quantumly entangled across time to every moment that this planet has been in the universe. And he just nodded his head and he said, yep, that would do it.
Okay. So quantum entanglement, basically.
Quantum entanglement takes care of that question.
Because that's what I was wondering. I was like, if you're going to travel through time, the Earth is in a different spatial location, you know.
Yeah,
and at
entanglement takes care
times,
of it.
I mean, I've wondered if, like, the whole, you know, the Big Bang, the expansion of the universe is related to the whole movement of time.
It is. So it's the beginning and the end. It's the alpha and the omega, and we see this in our ancient symbolism, like
Snake
the
that eats
Ouroboros.
itself. Yeah.
Snake that eats its own tail. And science is actually figuring this out, even though they don't realize they're figuring this out. So, like the Anita project and the Ice Cube project down in Antarctica a few years back, where you had the scientists working on this, and basically they're doing neutrino research down there. And the scientists working on this published a peer-reviewed paper in Annals of Physics.
Yeah.
And they had detected neutrinos coming up out of the Earth without a source. And I mean, I don't quite understand all the science behind neutrinos and all that, but their conclusion, this was them, not me.
Yeah.
They said, well, this is indicative of a parallel universe running in reverse time. Whoa, okay. Well, that's interesting. So I actually took, and I illustrate this in Travels Through Time, how the symbol of the Ouroboros is actually those two universes running in reverse time, because it's usually depicted with the two different colors, one for the top of the snake, one for the underside. And if you have one running in one direction and one running in the other, they meet where the head eats the tail, and that's essentially the Big Bang. Boom, one goes in one direction, one goes in the other, they meet back there and start again. And that symbol that's our first alchemical symbol, and that's the symbol of constant renewal and recycling. So when the ancient Egyptians used it, they're talking about recycle renewal of the person, like it was on King Tut's tomb and stuff like that.
Right.
They're also talking about constant renewal of life, Earth, and also the universe. So this was like a universal symbol to them. And so they somewhere in there they knew of this, because you even look at their the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and they're talking about layering time, and Atum, who is the creator god, likens himself to the serpent, and he's going to he talks about how the Earth is going to return to the primordial waters and it's going to rise again. So it's all embedded within there.
Oh yeah, and I've called it the eternal return.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen King's Dark Tower again. That's I don't want to give away the ending, but yeah, it's basically that. And I mean, there's other things. Oh, you ever Futurama does it with the they have a really great episode where they have this machine the professor makes, and it can travel through time only forward.
Okay.
So they can keep going forward. Well, they end up going accidentally forward and way too far, and they're like, I guess we're gonna see the end of the. Right, they're going to see the end of the universe. They're going to see the end of the universe. They pop beers, and they're Bender and Fry and Professor, and then they're going to watch the end of the universe. And of course, Big Bang happens and everything. And guess what? Yeah, they end up seeing that Earth form and dinosaurs, and they're going forward through. They went back around the eternal return. Great episode, Futurama.
Very cool.
And that's what I've always wondered, is that's how time works. Is this all this expansion, and then.
And we start again. Now, here's the thing, though, is it might not return the exact same universe. So, like, this moment isn't happening perpetually, like a million times over every time that the universe recycles. It's forming up it's going to form up different. I mean, even like right now, our planet, our solar system, it was previously some other solar system in the past. And when that one died and reformed and all that, a new solar system was born. Well, we're not looking exactly like the same planet as what was back then. So it makes you wonder, though, what was on that planet? Did they have life? Was there civilization on there? What happened?
I mean, even their own planet. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we are just a speck in time.
Yeah.
Our
We've only
existence
been
here.
around. I think the numbers are so big that would just, a lot of people just kind of almost block it out. Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Okay. The entire universe is almost 14 billion years old. A billion years is a long, long time. I mean, you think about, humanity, we've been around only, as far as like Homo sapiens, the oldest fossils we found are 315,000 years. That's nothing compared to, compared to the entire span of the life of the planet. I mean, think about the dinosaurs. They went extinct 64 million years ago, which is just over 1% of the lifespan of the planet ago. So,
and all we know of that time period is what met the conditions of fossilization.
Yeah,
everything else is turned to dust.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so much
Silurian
that's
theory.
lost.
There could have been other civilizations. I mean, we could have past time travelers traveling to the future. We're the future. There could have been a whole other civilization with massive technology, 200, 300, 400, 500, a billion years ago, developed here or something. We don't know. And they could have had time travel, and they're traveling to the future. Say, hey, we're gone. Who are these humans?
Well, yeah, and I get asked, like when it comes to UFOs and things like this, 'cause,
right?
There's a certain sect of people that are saying, well, UFOs are, not extraterrestrials. They're just us from the future. And I leave it open to say, well, maybe some of them, not all. To be all inclusive like that, no. But some of them, yes, there's that possibility, but it also doesn't necessarily have to be us from the future. It doesn't have to be humans, because 1 million, 2 million, 3 million years from now, humans could be completely gone. We may have annihilated ourselves by then and all that, but other intelligent life forms may have risen up, developed civilization, developed technology, developed time travel technology. So it could still be something indigenous to Earth, but not human,
not
or
us.
even an extraterrestrial life form that comes here like 20 million years down the road, finds Earth and decides, oh, this is a great place to colonize. And they come down here and they, again, the same thing. They build up their civilization, their technology, develop
ultra-terrestrials.
Ultra-terrestrials
living alongside of us in a sense.
Yeah, they live alongside of us. And what I find funny about that, because there are those who are saying, well, there could be extraterrestrials that are living in another dimension next to us. It's like, well, yeah, those would be Earthlings. Not extraterrestrial. So yeah, ultra terrestrials is another term for that. But yeah, I mean, you could have ETs from the future that colonize Earth. They essentially become Earthlings, and but they're not us, that are time traveling.
And there's also the possibility, if there are multiple dimensions, like one of the shows I loved was Sliders. Where they they travel.
Yeah.
You remember? Oh,
I remember Sliders.
Quantum Leap and Sliders. Were two shows produced by I can't think of the guy's name at the moment that produced both those shows. Quantum Leap had your circle. Time is a string you put in the circle. But Sliders, they were jumping between these parallel dimensions, and it was the same time frame. There was no time travel.
Right, but it was just different parallel universes. Yeah.
But if there was a sense that there are different parallel universes that could exist in different time frames than us, a future version of us that colonized left went out to the Pleiades or the Orion, and they colonized some other planet, and then they got technology come back to their home world, and then travel back in time and see their ancient ancestors, and they'd look completely different than us. Technology would be like magic, There's those possibilities, plus all the different other creatures that people see, or aliens, I should say, that could be coming from parallel. They're Earth. They're from an Earth, but an Earth that's different than ours. I mean, maybe reptilian people are just people who, on another parallel timeline on Earth, the dinosaurs evolved.
Yeah, when we look at the other dimensions, I mean, there are up to 11 hyperspatial dimensions. So, our consciousness is in the fourth, and we experience everything below that. So, third dimension, 3D object, 2D, which is a plane, first dimension, which is the line. But there are other dimensions above us. We call the fourth time, but that's essentially where our consciousness is. And that makes us interesting beings, because our fourth dimensional consciousness is inside our third dimensional body. the 3D body passes away, the consciousness is still around. So that's where, some of them, hang out here. It's where, some of them are ghosts or spirits or whatever.
Right.
But then others move on to, and that's the big question. Where do they move on to? They move on to one of those other dimensions, or is there something even further beyond that? And you even have scientists today, Roger Penrose, Stuart Hameroff, have been doing a lot of work with like the consciousness, and they believe it's stored in the microtubules in the brain, and they even say, it goes off to the cosmos somewhere. We don't know where, but it goes somewhere. So science is kind of slowly catching up to us. But this means that these other dimensions, fifth, sixth, seventh, and onward, there are going to be other beings and entities and life forms that live in these other dimensions, but they are also outside the scope of time. They're not in our dimension of time.
Right.
So time will work very differently for them. They'd be able to see and interact with time as an object. So they kind of depict this a bit in the movie Interstellar.
I knew you were going to bring that up. That's great. Oh, yes. The Tesseract,
absolutely.
And then he's inside of it. Oh, yeah. I think I see. I wish I would have seen that movie in the theater. Had everybody like, dude, everything you talk about, you need to see Interstellar. Have you seen Interstellar? How many guests asked me if I'd seen Interstellar? Like, I have not yet. I finally got to see that movie a couple years ago. I'm like, oh my God. The picture, like.
Just a couple years ago? Oh, man. Yeah, I didn't see it in the theater either, but I did see it like just after it got on TV.
It took me a while.
Yeah.
Took me a while, because my wife's like, oh, Matthew McConaughey, I don't know, like she has bad memories of Dazed and Confused. All right, like it's not a huge Matthew McConaughey fan. So I think, but we eventually watched it. I love that movie so much, and
that's
like the way
favorites.
that his child's room is all these different moments in time that he's kind of within to send a different message, and they, like all those things that happen, like could be ghosts. I mean, think about how many times people said a loved one came back to them or gave them a message about something that's about to happen in the future.
Yep.
That means that spirit, that loved one, has some perspective outside time to see that.
Right, absolutely. And I've had visitations before, like from my grandparents, and it was that's not, it was a dream visitation. I do believe in those.
Too.
And there's a difference between just having a dream of like a loved one and actually having a visitation. And it's hard to quantify that to somebody because it's like you just know, right?
Yeah, I know.
So,
I've had that experience with my grandmother and aunt. Yeah,
and they had come back to, I was going through my divorce at the time. I was having a really tough time, and I was having this dream where everything at the old house was getting packed up, and everything was getting moved and cleaned up and all that. And they're all of a sudden standing there in the kitchen while I was kind of like cleaning things up, and I go running around the counter, hugging them and say, "Oh, hey, how you guys doing? I'm so happy to see you. How have you been?" And I knew in my mind that they were deceased, but here they were, and I'm asking them, how they were, and they're like, "Oh, we're fine. You don't need to worry about us. We're fine. You need to realize that you're okay." And I didn't want to hear any of that. I wanted to find out what was going on with them, and they're like, "Oh, we're good. We're." So so whatever is beyond there, wherever they were,
I've had that very similar experience with my grandmother and aunt, who they both hugged me, and it just felt so real. But I knew like I'm having a moment in the dream. I don't know how he says his name here in the chat. Ferocian, I don't know. Hi, Mike. Do you believe in the Mandela effect? And this is probably we got about 15 minutes before commercial break. This is probably lead into the next. But do you believe in the Mandela effect and all parallel timelines combined into one? I don't know the last part.
Okay. So, I mean, we mentioned the Mandela effect a little bit earlier. And the Mandela effect definitely happens. I've had some experiences with it. Now, I don't believe, because when you go look up top 20 Mandela effect, it's all like branding, right? Like Fruit Loops and Oscar Mayer. Yeah, I mean, nobody's going back in time to change branding. It's too trivial. But you could have somebody go back in time and accidentally change the timeline a little bit, where, like we were talking about before, butterfly effect, and those ripples kind of change different little things. So, yeah, it definitely happens. As far as parallel timelines converging into one, well. The thing that I'm interested in, because we kind of talked about that a little bit. If we change something, then I believe everything is already on this timeline, and when you make that change, it's just adjusting this timeline that we're currently on.
I mean, the moment you would travel back in time, you've already changed something.
You've already changed something.
Your
so
presence
boom,
just
it changes. Yeah. So it's kind of instantaneous. But what I'm interested in is, okay, if we are finding out through our science and looking back at our ancient symbolism that there is a parallel universe running in reverse time, what does that look like? Is that so? If we do get a image of, I don't know, all of a sudden maybe I'm sitting here and a scene from the 1850s shows up here. Is that an image from the the timeline, the parallel universe that I'm in right now, or is that from the universe I'm in right now? Or is it an image from the other universe that if they're running in reverse, are they starting off as like a highly advanced civilization and then like decomposing? And am I seeing them, and where they're at along their timeline? Yeah, that's the one little question.
I know. I don't understand the reverse
the one
time.
wrinkle. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand like what would be reverse time. Is it us reversing and backwards?
Well,
like
see,
for
that's
the
a question
end, or,
too. So are we arrogant enough to assume that we are the ones moving forward? Maybe we're actually the ones running backwards and don't realize it.
Right. I mean, the whole idea that of a parallel timeline running on the reverse, like I said, that's the stuff my wife says makes your brain hurt.
Kind of. Yeah. That one
Right. I
does.
mean, like those glimpses of like of time slips. Is that where like do you think we're meshing with that reverse timeline at times too?
It could be. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of different possibilities on the table. Yeah, it could be that
time travel. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It could be that the parallel universe running in reverse time. It could be something from our timeline, but we are having a time slip with some other moment. Or it could just be a residual haunt energy that's trapped in like stone tape theory. And we get a playback real quick.
Right.
Which is it?
I mean, there's other. When you get down the rabbit hole in this field of the internet age too, of time travel tales. I was a big Art Bell fan, so a lot of this stuff came up in Art Bell back in the day. Mandela effect sure as heck did.
Sure.
Back then, but like stories like John Teeter that fascinated the internet. I'm trying to think some other really, urban, like Chronovisor, the Catholic Church, had a machine that could view back into the past. You got Andrew Bisuago, claiming that he's traveling through time into Mars with Obama and stuff. Alec Beale, the Philadelphia experiments. These things are urban legends now. I'm saying Art did some amazing interviews with like Al Bielek and all that stuff. But there's a lot of disappointing things when you research deep into these stories.
Yeah,
I was fascinated. When I'd listen to anything to do with time travel and Art Bell, Al Bielek, I probably listened to several many times interviews, and I know the backgrounds. I know the debunking, about Bielek, sadly, but I enjoyed it the whole time. It's because it gets you thinking. It gets you thinking just like a science fiction writer would. John Teeter, whatever that is with that, being a hoax or not, probably hoax. Man, there's some detail put into that one. Yeah. Some real thought and detail put into that one. I mean, down to blueprints of his General Electric time machine. I mean, it takes some knowledge and some expertise to make a blueprint, graphic design. He definitely knew physics. Yeah. But that concept I loved about John Teeter, he doesn't, in the postings that he made, alludes to the fact that he was not traveling back to his exact past timeline. That the past he was traveling to wasn't exactly his own past.
Right. I haven't done. It sounds like you've done a much deeper dive than I into his story, but and that's a challenge when somebody's trying to claim I'm a time traveler and pointing at a photograph from the 1800s or there I am. And you're looking, and it's like kind of blurry and maybe
okay
maybe. Yeah, so that makes it difficult. And then there's like the out of place photographs in videos and things like this from the early 20th century.
They're listening to a cell phone or they got an iPad.
Right. Yeah. Or the clothes like the time traveling hipster, where it's like, well, some of that stuff you can account for at that time, but it's like this guy would have to be like really on the ball and ahead of his time in like the shirt that he was wearing, where they're saying, well, it could have been an old NHL hockey jersey. And I looked into it was supposed to be the Montreal Maroons.
Right.
And I looked into the team, looking at old team photographs and stuff. It was like, they must have had an alternate jersey because
it doesn't match.
The colors don't match. Yeah.
It doesn't match. It is a weird one. I mean, it's not some kind of definitive proof, definitely.
No.
But that one's a
well.
weird
And what would he be doing at the South Forks? The bridge reopening.
What do you think of the Chaplin film? It came from the excerpt from the you've seen that one where
where it looks like she's holding the cell phone or whatever with something up to her ear. And some people have tried to say like it's an ear horn or something like that, but it looks like she's talking. There's nobody near her. It's not something that you would use while walking down the street just to listen to street noise. So it's that one's kind of bizarre.
If there is
I've
some
been
kind
worried
of
about it being a mirror, but she wouldn't hold a mirror like that.
If there was some kind of government program of time travel in our future or current that's happened, we're going to make mistakes. It's going to show up if they're traveling anywhere within modern history and camera and photo.
Right.
There are going to be some mistakes or some clues. And maybe the Mandela effect are some of the clues too. A lot of people have pointed their fingers at CERN. CERN doesn't do anything to help their causes. They seem to like flame those flames.
No, they keep doing more and more. So
right, dude. You have the one guy at CERN that's like wearing he was wearing the shirt that was like totally like calling out to the Mandela effect. I can't remember what it was, but they were like had things in there because Jaws is a big one for me. From James Bond. With the girl. And I'm a huge James Bond fan. So Moonraker, for people that don't know, there's this famous scene where he comes out and he meets this girl and she smiles at him. My memory, and I have it on DVD and VHS and gone back to watch both to make sure nothing changed, is when she smiles, she's got big braces. There's even a review from the 70s, from after when that movie filmed, from two different movie reviews. One movie reviewer makes a comment about that scene and mentions she has braces.
Okay.
So did it change or what happened? Like saying, because if you go watch it, there's no braces. She just smiles. But it feels like the most empty thing. Like there should have been braces there. There should have been, because I would have made that much more comedic in a sense. But like I said, did CERN go out there and just decide we want to edit some James Bond footage? We're going to change Moonraker. No.
Yeah, something like that is too trivial. That's where, okay. So, so let's say they just send somebody back in the past to be an observer. Okay. And, so I use this one with the cornucopia on Through the Looms. You could use it with anything.
It's a good example though.
But yeah. Because I remember there being a cornucopia. So let's say your observer goes back into the 1950s or whenever they originated the branding and the artwork for it. Your observer just happens to be crossing the street, and there's a car that's coming. It has to brake and stop for this person crossing the street. Well, in the original timeline, they didn't have to do that because your observer wasn't there and they just kept going. Well, what if that little moment changed everything that was going to happen to them further down the road, where maybe there became an accident down there. Maybe they were supposed to get into an accident or whatever. And on the original timeline, they had passed a fruit stand or whatever with the cornucopia, and they were on the marketing team and they were going to work, and that inspired them to come up with, that would be an interesting idea for our branding. But because of now the timeline has changed, maybe they had to take a different route or whatever happened where they no longer passed by that fruit stand or they didn't notice it now because of this one little blip that happened. So that idea didn't spawn in their mind, and now we don't have the cornucopia.
That means they're changing time. That means they are changing time, and we notice,
but not purposely. That's the thing. It's like, a lot of people try to take the Mandela effect and say, well, this is a proof that they are trying to change time, and that's not necessarily the case. It can just simply be an effect of, like I said, you have somebody that just went back in time to watch and look and observe and just maybe take notes, but yet their presence there, just from crossing the street, had an effect. So yeah, I think a lot of times it's just very, very subtle, and we're just seeing those ripple effects happen over time.
But what fascinates me about that is the fact that we noticed.
Of course.
That so many of us have it. So what
so
does that
many
mean?
of us have the memory. Yeah.
Right. What does that mean about consciousness and time? If we existed in a different parallel timeline where Jaws in that movie, girl had braces, and now this timeline I exist in it where that didn't happen, but I remember that timeline.
Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, I always say when it comes down to like the idea that we were in a simulated universe, which I do believe that we are, but I don't believe it's a computer simulation. I think it's more organic or biological, that sort of thing. However, there's still
not Matrix.
It's not the Matrix, but conceptually, yes, but it's built differently. But memory, I'm going to use, I put that all up front because I'm going to use a computer analogy anyway.
I'm going to have you, I'm going to have you hold that. We're going to come right back to that because we got to go to I'm so sorry. Got to go to commercial break really quick. We're going to continue this. We're going to talk about, are we a simulation? I think that's what we're going to get into next. It makes you start wondering the way time is wibbly wobbly, as they would say in Doctor Who. But we'll be back after the short commercial break with our guest, Mike Ricksecker, author of Travels Through Time, totally lost it. Travels Through Time, Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel, and Stacked Time Theory. Yes, my favorite topic, time travel tonight. Yes, and I will open up the phone lines tonight. When we come back from the short commercial break, you can call in and ask your own questions, or if you experienced a time slip of your own after the short commercial break.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID oojblandoo or jblandparanormalsoup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Mike Ricksecker. He's the author of Travels Through Time, Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel, and Stacked Time Theory. Then we're about ready to enter Are We in a Simulation? When time gets all wibbly-wobbly and we can't understand time. Are we living in some kind of simulation? Like I said, I don't think it's the Matrix. I don't think that's what Mike is going to get to here in a moment. But it does seem like we're in some kind of design or of some kind. Do you believe we live in a simulation? Simulation? I cannot talk. Phone lines will be open. You want to join that conversation with our guest tonight, Mike Ricksecker, or have you had a time slip experience or influence to time or seen the future? Call in. All your questions, discussion tonight. That's why the lines are open for you guys to join us. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. So, Mike, are we in a simulation?
We are. To kind of pick up the thread from where we left off, I do believe we're in a simulation. It's not it's not a computer simulation. It's more organic or biological in nature. At least that's my belief. Because I mean, we relate things to our most current technology. What was high tech for us when the Matrix came out was computers. But 100 years beforehand, what was high tech then? You had 100 years before the Matrix movies came out, you had Nikola Tesla talking. He was talking about AI. He was talking about basically the technology that we have on our cell phones and things like that. Everybody laughed him out of the room. So it's going to be something else. It's going to be a technology that we don't quite understand. All that said, we were talking about the Mandela effect. Why do we still have like some of these different memories? And that's because when that change happens in our past, for a lot of people, it's not a complete overwrite. So I started going down the road of computers. When you erase a file on your computer, or you erase something off of a disk, the programming in it really just kind of creates a marker on there that this whole thing has been erased. That's why, like, when you want to really like maybe you're getting a new computer, you're going to give one away, you actually want to do like a complete format of the hard drive, because somebody with a little bit of know-how or knows some computer forensics, if you haven't done that complete wipe, can go back there and retrieve the information. So in the deep recesses of the computer, there is still some data from files and things that you believe that you've deleted. But yeah, so there's still those markers that are left there in your memory from those things that have been changed, at least for some people.
I've always wondered if it's something along the lines of little changes doesn't break the timeline, you know, like it tries to keep going, like time tries to keep the timeline together. It changes things, but then it readjusts and it's back to pretty much nothing hardly changes. It's so close.
Yeah, it makes an adjustment. Yeah, it's not going to break the timeline. It's going to make that adjustment. So it figures out pretty quickly what those new circumstances become, and boom, boom, boom. Because again, everything's here. It's all concurrent. So that change is like almost instantaneous to us. We don't notice.
But if a time traveler went back and like saved John F. Kennedy, Stephen King, sorry.
That's Stephen King, yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right? Well, I love that book.
Come back to a post-apocalyptic world, yeah.
Right. Did you read that book, or did you know,
I
they
just
did the
saw
Hulu series too.
Show. I saw the show, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that book. Huge fan of it.
I
disagree with him on the Kennedy assassination.
I disagree with him because, he put it all on Oswald. It's like, no, come on.
He did. But I looked past that for the story.
Yeah.
And I love that story. I love the look on it. And again, that's just like that's a doorway in a small little little like diner trailer.
Yeah, little portal.
50s diner.
There we go.
And this guy's like, here, I want to show you something in my pantry. And it's a portal to 1959 or 55. I can't remember what it was. But it was really a really cool concept because whenever they go through that doorway, it would always be the same day.
Yeah.
When they step through 1959 or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I think there are some and if you go back, so you could change everything and you come back to this crazy world. If you went back, then it would always be reset the whole thing, go back to that day. You could try it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of hard because you'd gone through so much, because there's a big chunk there where we're just going through the story and been there for years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it goes back to reset, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, like after a year, he'd been there, like, and this next time he goes back, like, I'm going to be more prepared.
Lived many years of his life.
And multiple timelines. Remember the guy that owned the shop too was like going back, and he always had like these really cheap hamburgers because he was going back and getting the same exact cow beef, from that same day in 1959 when he'd go back and buy it from the store for pennies on a dollar, for anything, and come back here and sell it.
Right.
I just love that idea. I'm a huge fan of anything science fiction, time travel, and I have to say, I have to call that out as one of those books I've read more than once.
Okay.
Oh, we got a phone call on the line too here. I want to take that. Who do we got on the line?
Jason, hi. It's Royal in Connecticut. How are you?
Hey, Royal. How you doing?
Good, very good. I wanted to run this by you guys. Mike, maybe you would know. I'm hoping. I had 2 incidents happen recently. One was about less than maybe 4 months ago. I was sitting here at my desk, and I decided to order Chinese food. I picked up the phone. I called the place like I always do, spoke to the same girl. I knew I had the right place. I put my order in, and she said, okay, we'll be there soon. And all I did was hang up my phone, sit it on my desk, and the door knocked.
Oh, wow.
And I said, who's that? Yeah. And I said, who the heck is that? I just put the phone down. I walked over to the door. I opened the door, and it was the guy with my food.
No, I want that kind of service.
In a second.
That's Chinese food delivery, man. Was it a DoorDash?
No, it was a regular, call the Chinese place, have them order it.
Wow, man.
But the thing is, I've never in my life had something like that happen before. And I was like, I know I didn't pass out. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing drugs. I didn't fall asleep.
Did you check the time? Did you check the time?
I'm sorry?
Did you check the time? Did you know the time?
No, I wouldn't think to check the time, because all I was doing was ordering food like I've done a million times before. But To this day, I cannot explain to you, because when I opened the door, when I saw the guy, I was so shocked, and I know he saw it in my face. It was really weird. It was almost like we were talking to each other, but not talking to each other. And like, he kind of gave me the feeling like he caught me. Yeah. And I'm like, that's impossible that you're standing here. I said that to the guy. I said, I just put the phone, and he laughed. He told me the amount. I gave him the money, and I must have asked every person I know that's into anything like this, and they couldn't. It wasn't, I don't know, would that be a time slip or a fast forward?
Yeah,
I mean, was it a simulation?
Or alien abduction, and
it's like
you
a
don't
time
have the
lock
memory.
movement. Yeah.
It just, normally it's like, normally it's like a good 20 minutes before they usually get to my door. As soon as I put my phone down, the door knocked. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. I have no explanation whatsoever
And
for
the
it.
order was correct, right?
Absolutely correct, and piping hot food and
the important part.
Everything. Yeah, everything. Yeah. Everything was right, but I mean, I still have no way to explain. I know about time slips. I know about going back in time. I know about time continuums and all that stuff. But to me, because I remember, if I'm not mistaken, who was it that said, if we leave fast enough, we'll be back before we left? Was that Einstein?
Einstein's general relativity.
That was Einstein, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, Einstein's general relativity.
Yeah.
If you're traveling, the faster you go to speed of light, your time differential happens to your, for us, it could be 500 years. For you is 15 hours because you're traveling at the speed of light, or it can't go faster than the speed of light. But the closer you get to it, time slows down for you.
In my timeline, I mean, sitting here at my desk, it was no more than a second, which I know is absolutely impossible. But yet I still have no explanation for it.
Hey, got your Chinese food on time? Right on time.
Yeah, I got that. No, I had one more thing that I know this. I know. Do you need me to get off now? Can I tell you one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This happened. Now, this one was far back when I was a little kid. I was about 6, 7 years, and it was really the first time this happened to me, and then happened many times since. But I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I was begging my mother to let me go sit outside because we lived in a bad neighborhood. But she said, all right, just go sit on the stoop. Don't leave the stoop. And it was a nice sunny day. I came out of the building. I was walking to the stoop, and I saw this old man, Bill, with his back to me, who I knew my whole life. I was only 7 years old, so he was like a grandpa to me. And for whatever reason, on the sidewalk, I froze, like sleep paralyzation, but I was awake and I was outside. And before he turned his back, it sounded like my ears went underwater. I couldn't hear good. I was frozen, and I was in fear, but I didn't know why. I said, he's going to turn around. He's going to put his cane on his arm. He's going to put his key in the mailbox. He's going to take out the mail, turn around and look at him. I'm saying all this to myself before it happened. Then he's going to fall down, never put his hands out, and smash his head on the wall and die. Now, I know that sounds crazy and graphic, but that's exactly what he did. And I couldn't stop it from happening. He turned, he did everything I said, and it wasn't until he hit the ground where I was unfrozen, and then I was so scared I ran past the door of the building to get in to my mother's bedroom window, banging on the window. She swung the window open, dragged me in, thinking somebody was trying to kill me, and I'm screaming, Bill's dead, Bill's dead, Bill's dead. She goes, what do you mean Bill's dead? I said, go and look. She went and looked. She screamed, called the ambulance. Sure enough, he was dead. I could never understand how in the world I knew exactly that before it happened.
Wow.
Yeah, you got like a download of information just as it was about to
that.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? I mean, I know I was a little kid, but my mother was trying, because for weeks I wouldn't let it go. I kept saying, "No, mommy, how did I know?" I was scared.
I mean,
Yeah, I was scared. I was so scared. I didn't want anything like that to ever happen to me again. And my mother gave me this cockeyed, reason. She said, "All right, you know how the way the world goes around and round, it spins?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "When it comes all the way around, everything starts all over again." And that was all I had to grow up on. I mean, I didn't know. I still to this day don't know how I knew that, and so many things in between.
I mean, it's so random. Like, I mean, just the fact that you saw a guy kill himself by smashing his head into the wall after.
Yeah.
What was in the mail? Dear God! I mean, the whole experience.
I don't know. He grabbed me just like I knew. I knew all of this. I knew all of this before it was going to happen, and it happened exactly the way I saw it before it happened. To me, I don't know what that is. I don't know. Did I see that in another life or another parallel universe or something? I don't know how to explain it.
You saw it in the first time around, and now you're back on the eternal return, and it's traumatizing. So that's why you remember. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That whole experience is pretty bad.
I figured that one would definitely get you thinking because I can't imagine how in the world I knew that. But I've had a lot of things since then, but nothing as bad as that, thank God.
Yeah, it just sounds like your consciousness tuned into that moment as just before it was about to happen. You got that real quick premonition of it. So. I mean, you could look at that.
Could that be how psychics work?
I'm sorry?
Could that be how psychics work? The psychics, they maybe use the same thing?
Yeah, and psychics, so when it comes to psychics, ESP, that sort of thing, to me, that is, it is a type of time travel. They are tapping into moments in time that are going to happen in the future, and they're bringing forth that, bringing back that information. So yeah, when their consciousness is going out to those other moments in time and bringing that information back with them. So it's, you can almost look at it as like a download of information for them.
Right. And what do you mean by that when you say that? Because I've heard that before, download.
It's just, I think we've kind of started using that term just because of our, because we use computers and things like that these days. So we go out to the internet and we get information. We download something off the internet to our computer. It's that type of concept, but instead of the internet to our computer, it's the universe and the eternal knowledge to our brains, to our consciousness.
The collective unconscious.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm sorry, Jamie?
Like light downloads and different types.
Yeah, no, I'm so interested you guys raised that because I had a Spanish girl that I was hanging out with probably 10 years ago grab me and pull me away from a window. And I said to her, "What are you doing?" She said, "Royal, they're downloading into you." That's just how she said it. And I said, "Who?" And she told me to get away from the window. They were downloading information into me. I'm assuming she meant aliens.
It could be a lot of different things. I don't know, but
this stuff is so wild.
Yeah, you got some wild stuff you brought tonight. So thank you for calling, Royal.
I'm glad I called, guys. It's been a while, but thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for taking my call.
Have a great night.
All right, bud.
Bye-bye, guys.
But like something like that's so traumatizing for a child to see somebody literally bashing their head against the wall and dying is like. Does that leave trauma through time? Did that leave trauma through time in a sense? That incident that it would have him at that moment.
Well, certainly would for Royal. Yeah. Of course.
Or that when we go in that state of sleep, we are going to a moment where we glimpse outside our own timeline and we just rack it up to dreams. I mean, think how many dreams we've forgotten,
Well, and that's the thing.
That's
so,
what
like
I think deja vu is.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just about to say that's what a lot of deja vu is that we will see a glimpse of the future, but you think about your nightly dreams. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been in a conversation with somebody where it's been like, "Oh yeah, this fascinating dream last night." I try to tell them the story, and it's like what had once seemed to be so vivid, now it's like I can get out 2 little details and that's it.
Right.
So yeah, with deja vu, it's like one of those where we did go to the future. We did get a glimpse of the future, basically forgot the dream,
Until the
or
clues start
forgot
rolling
the
in.
experience until we actually get to that moment in time where it actually happens. This seems really familiar. But basically it was a remnant of what we had thought was a dream, but it was actually traveling to the future and seeing it.
One of my clues I've always had in my dreams that I've dreamt of the future is in the dream, I will say to myself, in the dream, I've dreamt about this in the dream. Because that's what happened in the dream with my wife in the car and the cop and all that.
Mhm.
In the dream,
Yeah.
I remember saying, I dreamt about this. It's like the whole scenario, like what I'm saying, everything happening. Like that's my clue to myself. If I dream something and in the dream I say, I've dreamt of this. Like, ooh, this might be something that'll happen.
Yeah.
We got another phone call. Who do we got on the line here?
Hi, Jason. This is Ariana. How are you tonight?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in, Ziriana.
Yeah, it was so nice to hear from Royal. I haven't heard from him for a while there. Very nice. I have a couple of comments and maybe an experience, if that's possible.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll start with my experience first. I had recently, in a few months, lost both my cats. And, thank you. And, so I was thinking, well, maybe I should get another kitten or a cat or something, right? Feline. And, I looked and looked and looked and just nothing was right. Nothing was right. I couldn't find the right one and things like that, And, so I kind of said, well, I'm not going to get one, And then by, I don't know, sheer coincidence or a glitch in the matrix, there's this cat that this lady said, do you want this kitten? And I'm going, I don't know. But her name sounded so familiar, I had to get the kitten. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, the one I was waiting for. And
You knew that name, but you don't know where. It's because you had the cap. Because you.
Right. And I'm like, wow, And well, the questions I have are, if we are in the fourth dimension, why can't we advance to the fifth, sixth, or however many there are? Is it our intelligence? Are we limited? And
yeah,
the answer is 42.
Yeah, the answer is 42. We don't quite understand what really makes those dimensions. Like we don't have the physical geometry to really be able to access it. Like we'll get glimpses of it, but we don't understand really what it is when we glimpse it. We might end up saying, "Oh, it's a shadow person or a ghost or something weird happened." So, an example of that I use. Some people are familiar with the idea of flatland. So flatland is like a two-dimensional world. Okay, so everything's flat like a tabletop surface. And they can only perceive squares, circles, triangles, that sort of thing. Well, a person on flatland, if you suddenly like dropped in a sphere, like sent a ball through their world and just dropped that onto their flat surface, they wouldn't see that three-dimensional sphere. What they would see is this like small circles start to form, and then it would slowly get wider and wider and wider as like the sphere was dropped through it. And then as the sphere continued past that midpoint, then it would get smaller and smaller and smaller again until it disappeared. But they would only see the circle. They would never see the whole sphere. So that's the same thing with us. Those fifth, sixth, seventh that are beyond us. The physical geometry is just beyond what we can perceive in the fourth dimension. Our eyes can only take in so much information. So some of these things that might consider interdimensional beings, they're coming off to us in weird different shapes and forms and things like this. We don't quite understand. We understand something's happening, but yeah, we just don't have that physical makeup to be able to go there, at least at this point.
Okay. And my other question would be is, if someone, with all the different dimensions that you have mentioned, if one crossed into the wrong dimension, going back, what would that cause? What repercussions would that have to that life?
You're talking about what would you like to go back, reverse in time? Like what that?
No, like the fourth, like if I went back into a parallel dimension, or I'm trying to
timeline,
right? And I made a mistake. Instead of going back into mine, I went into another one. What repercussions could that have?
Well, yeah, that's when you start getting into different ideas about the multiverse and things like that. So, I'm of the belief, other than this idea of two parallel universes running in reverse time, I'm of the belief that we have one timeline that we're on until the universe resets again. Now, we kind of talked a little bit about it earlier. What would that other parallel universe look like? Like if we crossed over into that, and we may be getting glimpses of it, what kind of repercussions would that have? I'm not sure, because the idea of their universe running in reverse time is kind of a little bizarre anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So now what is interesting, if we're talking about parallel universes, is there are a lot of physicists that when they say, okay, we have these different universes, but not in the idea of, like the multiverse, like our science fiction has been talking about lately, where you make a decision and something, spawns off another universe. You got all these
bring characters back in the MCU.
Right. Yeah, that sort of thing. They actually believe that, no, there are many physical universes out there, like these big, giant bubble universes. So, outside of our universe, there are other universes out there, and they have their own chemical makeup. They have their own nuclear characteristics, all this sort of thing. And some of them will start up like ours, but then maybe they don't fully develop right, and they just kind of die off. Or maybe everything that, like what is happening in our universe, happens at a super accelerated rate, and it burns out and fizzles out. So that's kind of interesting that, the idea of all these other physical universes out there. And one of the ideas with wormholes is not just to connect to other places within our universe, like other solar systems and other galaxies and things like that, but to actually connect with a wormhole to one of these other physical universes. So that in itself would be kind of bizarre, because if it has like different different gravitational properties and things like that, I don't know how.
Different laws of physics.
Different laws of physics. Yeah, how would we survive? I don't know.
Right.
But yes, it's one of the ideas that physicists have thrown out there.
And you said you had an experience too, Ariana?
Oh, well, it just seems as though, well, I've always known, I've seen, my life and experiences go, like dominoes,
Mm-hmm.
and step one, step two, and it's been progressing that way, and it doesn't surprise me. But at this point in time, it seems it stopped. I knew what I was supposed to do. I knew where I was going, what I could achieve with the way that the steps were going. But now it's kind of stalled. And it's not confusing, but it's not confusing, but I kind of feel stuck. it's like Groundhog Day, the same thing every day, same thing
movie.
every day. Yeah. And I'm wondering, is that again a glitch in the matrix, or is that for a certain purpose for me at this time?
Well, I mean, that might be a moment or instance where the universe is saying, okay, we've been guiding you along here. Like you said, this domino fell, you've been doing all this. Now it's time for you to make the next move.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Alrighty.
Thank you for calling in.
Alrighty. Thank you, and everybody have a blessed day, and your fur babies and families, and Rob and his too.
Yes. Have a good
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I mean, they brought back. I mean, I think of so many times I've had future visions. I got one for you. During COVID. All right, we lost both our dogs a month apart from each other.
Oh, wow.
From old age,
Mhm.
and my kids were pretty young. But the weird thing is the year before all that, I had this dream of my eldest dog, Bella, passing away behind the vet clinic. They had her outside, the sun's setting. My oldest son is wailing, crying. And my youngest son, he was only like 3 or 4 at the time, goes and puts this little sunflower next to Bella's head. And she passes away. It was beautiful.
Wow.
I woke up crying from this dream. I even told my boss at work, who, he's gay. Him and his husband, they don't have children. They have fur babies. So if we talk about our children, I talk about my dogs with them, And I told him, I said, I think it's Bella's time's coming. I had this horrible nightmare, that she passed away. But I know she's 16 at that time.
Okay.
Time's coming. She's getting elderly. And a year later, and at the time, but I wrote it off. I was like, why would they have put my dog down outside? Why would they be doing that? So I didn't really think it was real. Just my subconscious telling me, you're going to have to face this decision soon. It's the worst, And then comes that day, and it's COVID. Everything's in lockdown. Everybody's scared to hell, and we're going to the vet, and we have to do it outside. And as soon as we start walking around back, the dream hits me. It hits me hard. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. I mean, I was, in tears, so emotional, and I couldn't ask for a more peaceful setting for my dog, Bella. And Liam goes and puts a little flower next to Bella's head, just like, I mean, it was to the T as the sun set. But what it did is I also had a nightmare of the other dog, Asia, dying in my arms in the middle of the night. She had this cyst tumor on her stomach that was just getting worse, and that it exploded in the middle of the night, and she died screeching in my arms. That was a nightmare. Because of what happened with Bella, when Asia stopped eating after Bella's passing and that cyst was getting bigger, we made the decision to put her down and not have that nightmare happen.
Yeah, you can. Sometimes the universe will give you information where you can act on it. And so, there's an example that I include in the book where this woman, she had a dream. Now this is back some time ago, but she had a dream that she was alongside this creek with the little baby, with like the little toddler, and she had turned to go do something, and all of a sudden when she turned back around after she was doing laundry, of all things, when she turned back around, there was the baby, in the water, floating face down, that sort of thing. So, fast forward many months later, she and some of the other mothers decide they're going to do like a little camping trip. And so, they go out and they're doing some camping, and the other mothers were like kind of elsewhere. And she said, well, I'm going to go do some laundry. And so she went down by the creek to go take care of the laundry, and she put the child down. She was about to turn, and it hit her, that dream. She's like, no, this is that dream. And she picked the child up and just left and stopped doing laundry altogether. and went and told the other ladies. Of course, since this was back, early 20th century or whatever, they all thought that she was, a little cuckoo, but she was like, no, this really happened. So,
I believe her.
So I think, we get that information. Our consciousness will travel to these other future moments, bring that information back to us, and then we can make a decision as to what we want to do with it. We have the option to change it. That's why I don't believe in predestination per se. Like the option is there. Like it's, I'll get the image and it's like, okay, I can let that happen, or I can.
There's always free will. We always have free will.
We have free will. Yes, we always have. We do. We always have free will, because without free will, there is no love.
Right. No choice. What does anything matter? I always love the Star Wars quote by Yoda: is that the future's always in motion.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's what, that there's destinations or things we could be heading to, possibilities, all lingering out there, all possible universes, possibilities. Maybe I do become Batman. I don't know. But
you really want to be Batman, don't you, Jason?
Well, be awesome. Batman. Come on, I'm Batman. Yeah, have all the cool toys. Come on.
That's right.
I honestly though, I want to be Doctor Who. I want the TARDIS, and I want to be able to travel back in time. I love history. That's what besides my all these things that I've had in my life that have like made me just speculate about time, mainly the premonitions that I've had, and I've changed things, and that's what's always made me fascinated by time. I'm also fascinated by history. I mean, at the same, I've had the idea of past lives. I've had two very vivid past life visions of who I was in the past. And that to me was like time travel.
Yeah, it is.
I was another person, and it's one of the reasons I was always fascinated with Quantum Leap, because he's like jumping into other people, through time. But it's like being somebody else.
Yeah, so that's one of those things. So I would love to go visit time and explore it a little bit, get to see it. I wouldn't necessarily want to live back in time. So, you think about like some of our large cities a couple hundred years ago. People always talk about how, the smell of Philadelphia or London or something like that, where, I mean, sanitation was terrible. That's sort of, it was like, what was the book that I read a few years back where it was a time travel and they'd gone back to London, and I thought it was really well detailed because the moment that he stepped out in late 1800s London, he just convulsed because of the smell. He couldn't just wearing the clothes, because it was like a lot of wool clothes that were like scratching his skin, so his skin was getting really irritated. It's like, that would actually really be the case. Because we're used to so many things from our environment. Yeah, it would be very much a culture shock. Yeah. So,
if they came here, they'd get shocked. If they came from the past to here.
Well, to them, this would all be magic. But to watch and observe and actually see what really happened, that would be great. Yeah.
Well, if you could do it like Quantum Leap, observe through somebody else, that lived there.
Fly on the wall.
Yeah. But it makes you wonder, is it, we talked at the beginning of the show, about somewhere in time, is the way that we could time travel through altered state of consciousness. And again, I mentioned the movie Altered States. Could we do this through some like, doing like an isolation tank and the right kind of mantra or a guided meditation, get somebody to travel into the past, see the past, quantum leap, is what I, wonder. Is that possible through consciousness? Even remote viewers, in a sense, are doing that, and they'll see something that's in the past.
A lot of what we've been talking about tonight is doing that. When we've been talking about having these premonitions and things like that as a form of time travel, but that's all with the consciousness. So it's a matter of, okay, how do I believe, you would have to set an intention going into it. It would be some sort of meditative state that you would put yourself in, and you would project your consciousness to that other point in time. So that's why I say what Matheson put to paper and what they put on screen, I don't think is completely inaccurate. I think he was really onto something. He basically had Richard go into, he was having him do some subliminal messages, but he basically put himself into a type of meditative state. And so, the question with that movie is always, and especially when you read the book, is, did it really happen? You
Right,
know,
or was it
because
just
it was it
delusion?
all just it was an illusion to him? Did he trick his mind into doing it? Did he just send his consciousness back there and it was kind of a dreamlike?
And the characters in that predicament of belief, you know,
Mhm.
too. Richard
Yeah.
is like, he's so obsessed with it that he kills himself.
Well, yeah, there's that, but you do have the proof, like the register and everything, that he had been back there. So
Right.
so he was able to will his consciousness back in time, like to the point where he could actually physically manifest, and that's always the bigger question that pops up when I talk about. I believe it has more to do with meditation and the consciousness to really time travel. And the question becomes, well, would that just be like seeing it like an astral projection and just kind of seeing it all play out, or would you actually physically manifest? And I think the physical manifestation part of it would be the tougher part, but being able to project your consciousness back to another point in time, I believe, because everything, again, resonance energy vibration, as long as we are able to tune into that and maintain it, then yeah, I think we could do it at least that way.
Maybe it's a combination of timing, location, and consciousness. Maybe there's certain
Well,
points.
yeah, and see, that's the thing, because you would have to, right, because you'd have to be, the place that you want to project, you'd have to sit in. So if I want to go back in time, 5 years in this house, I would sit here. If I want to go and go back in time 10 years to, I don't know.
It's like H.G.
pick a
Wells'
park
time
down there.
machine.
I would have to go there. Yeah.
It doesn't have any wheels. It just sits wherever you put it.
Just
And
where it
it's
is, and it moves back.
everybody's going to go in reverse around you, reverse time. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's essentially what Richard did in Somewhere in Time too, because he was in the room. Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, can consciousness prevail space-time? In the sense, a port itself to another location in time and space.
Yeah, I think you have to be at the.
The location might have to be special. You might have to be at a certain nexus or point or ley line or whatever you want to call it. Where these points where people have the time slips, the Versailles, like the two women in Versailles. But
it's all happening at Versailly, and that's the thing.
Right.
Is,
I'm saying you're going to travel to that point there.
Yeah.
But I'm saying because of that location.
If you want, you would have to be present at the location. If you want to go try to, have another time slip at Versailles, you got to go to Versailles. So you have to be at the location and initiate the process. Yeah. That's
what I'm saying. We have this. Some people think that maybe if we made a time travel device, we could use or anti-gravity, which could be related to time travel in a sense too, that you could use electromagnetics. And that what is the Earth but a big electromagnetic shield around us from our core.
Right.
And that there are certain points, around us on the Earth that have different mineral deposits, and that electromagnetic field's interacting with it in certain points. And this is the time slips. This is the portals. If somebody could figure that out, use their consciousness, they also could use certain locations to enhance that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So. And I get into this in my book that's coming out here in a month. So that's the difference between like basically a portal and a stargate. So portals are naturally manifesting, and kind of basically like you said, you have the electromagnetism from the Earth's core that's rising up out of the ground, and depending on the mineral deposits in the Earth's crust and mantle, how big those deposits are, what exactly it is going to create other smaller localized electromagnetic fields. So that's where we have like the Alaska Triangle, Bermuda Triangle. I believe that's what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch, those sorts of things. And the ancients knew to tap into these locations, so that's why we have like Stonehenge, the pyramids, and that's where they are all set up at. They knew how to do that. And what to tap into. So, naturally occurring portal, like we have them out in space. We already know about X points and that sort of thing. We're basically, so it's basically where the solar wind is interacting with the electromagnetic field of the Earth.
Right.
Well, that interaction goes all the way down to the surface of the Earth too. So you have all these mitigating factors, but even science has said, we do have portals. And it's interesting. They've been out there studying them for almost 10 years, and there's no model for
there's no predictive model for it whatsoever.
Yeah. So So yeah, they happen out
At
here.
least
in the
that they
wilderness.
know of.
Yeah.
Who's to say we don't have research that's gone deep down into the pits of the DoD or whatever? And Andrew Biswago's right. We've tapped into it. We know when these things are going to appear or how to control it and have portals. I don't know.
Well, and that's the difference with what a Stargate is. So a Stargate is an intelligent being's ability to be able to harness that type of thing like a portal and be able to at will move in and about, whether it's to some other place in the cosmos or some other place here on Earth, some other point in time, dimension, that sort of thing. So, I mean, in modern times, is it somewhere there in the government? Maybe. We believe the ancients had that sort of technology to be able to do that. Could we in the future? Maybe. And I always say intelligent being because it doesn't necessarily have to be us.
Right. There's so many factors in this, and Royal, brings up this because you've written the Shadow Person book. I've had my major Shadow Person experience I shared with you. Is could shadow people be time travelers? I also have had Barry Taff on, as parapsychologist, and he was really big into the electromagnetic effects of the Earth on location and person. The combination of both the person and the location and creating like psychokinetic activity and poltergeist activity, that these things are connected. Could poltergeist activity, shadow people, be really just time slips in a sense? Something gets thrown in a room, it's really somebody 20 or 30 or 100 years from now interacting with something and making that throw across the room. Or what I'm saying, is the shadow person that you're seeing really a person from the future?
Could be. And this is what I always say about shadow. They are a lot of different things. It just comes off as a shadow because of the way that our eyes are taking in the light. We only see into a very narrow band of the spectrum. So yes, some shadow people are time travelers. Some of them are human spirits that can't fully manifest as an apparition. Some are interdimensional beings. Some are ETs. It's just they're all different things. So, but yeah, some can certainly be time travelers.
They're just the things we can't see. I know what I experienced. Some people call it demonic. I call it, some kind of other dimensional entity.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever was messing with me, I don't think it was a time traveler. It is a parasitic.
Well, and the thing is that people want like one answer. Okay, what I get all the time.
42.
I wrote the book. Exactly. What is a shadow person? I'm like, well, how much time do you have? Because it's not just one single answer. We want.
Who are the aliens?
We want to compartmentalize everything into one little neat little, put in a little box, put a bow on it, and we're done. It's like, well, no, it's
people want that for everything. They want everything in a neat little bow, a 2-second
answer to everything. We don't have the right question.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe we don't have the right questions. That's why I always answer 42.
They're not doing the work.
Well, that's the thing. But it's so complicated. I always say this about the alien disclosure thing, is that maybe they can't disclose anything because it's just that too complicated. There's so many different factors. There's so much history. So how you unveil that to everyone? That same thing with time travel, and same thing with aliens and all that. There's so much more to it. And shadow people, we're experiencing multiple different things happening. The cryptids, a Bigfoot. Could that be an ancient Gigantopithecus just time slipping through at times that we're seeing? Dogman, is that from another dimension? There's a lot of weirdness happening, and it could involve time. It could involve other dimensions. It could involve all the above.
Involves it all at the same time.
Yeah, that's why I call it paranormal soup. It's
there you go.
I believe it's all connected. I believe there's.
Oh, it's definitely connected. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some connection, and like you said, everybody wants to package this to understand something that goes way beyond our understanding. Like try to, people ask, well, what's the fifth dimension? Your brain can't comprehend it.
Right.
I don't know if you. I've had dreams where like I'm giving like some massive information, like about the understandings of the universe. I've had this, and I know it. I understand it in the dream. But as soon as I wake up, it's like, oh, my brain can't translate it. It's gone. My brain can't translate whatever that information was just given to me. Because I'm existing in a consciousness in a field that is beyond this physical 3D brain. It can't translate that.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. It's like a feeling that it's just like a knowing. It's just over time of paying attention and getting into certain things. You just get this knowing and a feeling where you just understand, but you can't really explain it. That's why you can't just give a 2-word explanation to somebody with a little bow. It's like you have to kind of feel it for yourselves on some points.
I just wonder, my question is this: if you run across one of these time slips, you're lucky enough to be one of these people, and suddenly the ancient past opens up to you. You see people, and I watched. You talked about the Conjuring. I think in one of your videos I watched on your thing about the Conjuring experience is a perfect example. The people in the Conjuring house. Who was it? It wasn't.
Andrew.
It wasn't. Yeah. Sees like people from the 16th century there.
Yeah, it was Andrea and her mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so at the Conjuring house, I mean, everybody is familiar with the movies, and what happened in the movie is not at all what happened at the house. And they kind of again wrap it up into some nice little story. Well, the hauntings went on there the entire 10 years that they lived there. The big event that happened was a seance that went wrong. It wasn't an exorcism. Ed and Lorraine were, when the seance went bad, they were tossed out of the house and never and asked to never come back. It's very, very different. They had all different kinds of things happening. They had, regular, ghosts and things. There were UFO experiences. There all kinds of stuff. So what Andrea has always said, and I'm very, very good friends with her, is that the most significant thing that ever happened in the house was a time slip incident. It was just after maybe a few weeks or a month or something like that, after that incident, and her mother was still kind of trying to recover from it all. And so Andrea, had made dinner and everything this one particular night and was up doing homework. Carolyn had been sleeping. Carolyn wakes up and comes out into the parlor where Andrea is at. She's asked, well, can you heat me up some of the leftovers and put on a short pot of coffee? So Andrea's like, okay, I'll go take care of that. And so Carolyn's sitting in the parlor looking out into the dining room, and all of a sudden manifesting inside the dining room is this family like out of the 1700s. There's a couple of kids running around. There's a woman cooking over an open hearth, which the fireplace in that room at that point had been blocked off for like 100 years. And then there's two men sitting at a table, both with pewter steins, and they look at Carolyn and, make eye contact with her. And the one kind of elbows the other and says, hey, would you look at that? As if she was the ghost.
Yeah.
So, and then the whole scene kind of dissipated away. So, it was, fantastic incident, perfect example of a time slip. And I've been to that house, and right above, that room, is Andrea's old bedroom. I got really lightheaded up in there, but I ended up looking at the construction of the whole house.
Yeah.
We're talking about harnessing energy and that sort of thing. Well, below the parlor, in the basement of the house, is what they call the well room, because there's an open well to this day in that room. It's got water and everything in it. The walls are made of limestone, and they're capped with granite blocks. So, it's like in ancient Egypt. It's much on a grander scale out there, but it's the same. It's the same setup, same material, same setup, smaller scale. And the parlor where that time slip happened is right above it. Then Andrea's old bedroom, where they saw like shadow smoke and all kinds of other crazy things happened. And also there were incidents up there where they would have like some of those time loss incidents where time would work. Andrea called it like a bubble that they would be in, where time almost kind of like seemed to stand still, and all these different crazy paranormal things would happen. And they go down, to them it would be like 20 minutes, half hour of all this stuff happening, go downstairs after the event, in like 5 minutes had passed. So,
Yeah, like they're in a time bubble.
Exactly.
Basically, running at a different speed. Think all this activity that happens in these places, like especially the very like psychokinetic activity, airports and things moving, and I always love the time slip stories where the people in the past react to the person. There's a communication, or they talk to somebody. What is it? What is that place? Oh, Bold Street, Liverpool. There's a great story about a guy, interacting with people. Like it goes back, I think, back to the 1950s or whatever. He's on Bold Street in Liverpool, and he like interacts. There's a bookstore there, and he interacts with people and talks. There's other ones. Jim Harold has one of the classic campfire stories is of a bar these people went into. that was like people are there, and all this stuff, and they can see there's a painting on the bar, and they can see in the painting everybody in the bar right now that's interacting is the same theme people in the painting. But when they go back, the bar has been abandoned for years. There's nobody there.
No,
Those kind of classic examples, but
Yeah.
they were interacting and talking to these people. Those things make my imagination go wild. It's like if they would have stayed, but they've been lost in time,
Right, yeah,
lost to that
yeah.
time period. That's always the things that when I hear these time slip stories, like I said, the women in Versailles, they saw what this different time period. If they would have walked in, or could they have stayed there? I mean, is this what happens to people that disappear? Is again the question we come up to. We're going to go our last commercial break. Phone lines will be back open when we come back. We got just about 30 minutes left of the show with our guest tonight, Mike Ricksecker. We're talking about time travel. I'd love to get one more phone call tonight. If you had a time slip experience, especially, please don't be afraid to share. You want to be anonymous. Nobody judges you here. These things are crazy. Or if you had a premonition or dream you couldn't explain like that you believe you saw the future, share tonight. That's what the show. We're sharing experiences as well. We're trying to get more than the answer is 42. When we come back from this short commercial break.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it. But to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all. But he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re,
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID jblandoo or jblandparanormalsoup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Mike Ricksecker. We've been talking about time travel. My favorite of the topics to talk about. We don't get to talk about often. Don't have too many guests. It's a hard topic. But Mike is a great researcher, and basically, you know, it takes a good imagination to really dwell deep into these ideas, because like my wife always says about time travel, it makes her brain hurt. Mike's book is Travels Through Time, Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel, and Stacked Time Theory. He's also the author of lots of different books. Paranormal Encounter series, or Encounters with the Paranormal, I should say. I'm featured in one of those books you should check out. A lot of different topics. Shadow people, ancient aliens. Mike's your guy. You got to check him out. You can find his books on Amazon. Highly recommend. Phone lines are now going to be back open. Call into the show. Join the discussion. Have you had a time slip experience? Seen the future? A little bit of time left. If you want to share your experience, we'd love to hear it. But let's go ahead and get back to our guests. Thank you for hanging out with us here tonight, Mike. Like I said, it's always great to have you on the show. Jamie's been super excited all week to have you on. There's so many things I still want to, talk about. I mean, we've talked about a lot tonight when it gets to time travel. I mean, there's other instances I can think of. I mean, like, the Rendlesham Forest incident. What's his name? Oh, God.
Jim Penniston.
Thank you.
Yeah, he talks about the sphere of influence. Yeah.
Because basically the message or to say the message that was it Pendleton that got the message with
It was Penniston that got the message, yeah.
Yeah, so like after, he basically for people who don't know, Rendlesham Forest, what year was that? That was the 80s?
It was like right around 1980, yeah.
Yeah. There's this craft came down in this forest near this U.S. Military base, and he touched it, and he got all these ones and zeros. This is what he said. He wrote it down, and then translated later as in binary code. It came out this whole message like from the future, like it was like a probe from the future.
Yeah, what was also interesting about that is he talks about being in like this sphere of influence. So just before he touched that, he had noticed that the others that were around him, like Burroughs and Cabansag and these others, they had like stopped. like they had like gone into almost like stop motion sort of thing, like
Time froze.
yeah, like time froze in this one little area that he was in, and then he touched the symbols on there. So yeah, he got binary code. He wrote it down. It kept flashing in his mind. So he wrote it down on it was like a little notebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't a computer guy. He was a security police officer, so he had no idea what it was. But yeah, later on down the road, when he was showing people his notes, somebody was like, "That's binary when you get that translated." So yeah.
I know. It's like, let's say there's people are like, well, if there's time travelers, where's the evidence? I think there could be a lot of evidence out there. I mean, I'm not thinking all aliens or all the UFOs out there are not aliens, but I think there's some evidence in there that some of it might be time travelers.
Well, there is. I mean, everybody wants, for like aliens. So they're gonna, show up on the White House lawn and say hello, and same thing with time travelers. Step out of this.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Step out of the big capsule and be like, hey, we just came from the future, and show you all this stuff. They want what we've seen on the silver screen. They want the Hollywood version of it, and that's just not the way it works.
Yeah, it's much more bigger picture, complicated, I think, than that. Yeah. What we get into. There's the idea can one day we figure out, or have we secretly figured out how to traverse time, travel through time. We talked about the consciousness tonight, but the science of doing it like with a machine. Do you think, I know your idea is the best way is probably going to be through consciousness, but do you think we could create a machine that could actually do this?
So the way in which I think technology would help us there, again, it's not going to be a DeLorean or flux capacitor, as fun as that would be. Where I think technology can really help us here is, again, kind of going down that route of the consciousness. The trick there is being able to maintain the frequency. The reason why we see a time slip and it just doesn't completely mesh together is because we're talking about frequency, resonance, vibration, and it's not maintaining that a constant frequency. It's in flux. Right. Just like your own personal resonance, a human being will resonate anywhere between 9 to 16 hertz, but everybody's a little bit different, and you're not resonating at the same frequency all the time. So, so these things are always in motion as a future. We talked about that. Yeah. So I think where technology would come into play on this is once we're able to figure out that aspect of, okay, what's the frequency we need to tune into and all that, technology could help us to maintain it so that we could go and have these longer experiences rather than these fleeting moments.
Oh, like with the consciousness through that travel, you're saying, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the case, if it is just through the consciousness, I guarantee some dark entity in our government has experimented in it.
Yeah.
They talk about the Montauk Project and the Roar
right.
Chair, things like that. That open up a portal and a creature come through. Stranger Things, basically.
Right. The other idea is, we kind of talked a little bit about stargates and being able to harness, being able to harness portals. And so, if we had that, that might be another way to be able to do it. If that portal opened up to another point in time rather than some other place out in the woods or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mentioned that show Terra Nova, to do this whole moving civilization 65 million years into a parallel past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They had to create a huge gateway, like Stargate. Sure. It looks like Stargate. Love the movie. But it's a big, huge portal. Like people are like walking through this thing, they jump through the portal and end up 65 million years into the past, and they're, the world's falling apart. So everybody wants a ticket to get to this beautiful place. Even though there's dinosaurs that are going to eat you. It was a good show. Why did they cancel it? Yeah. But that idea that they had to keep that portal open.
Yeah.
Because once it's shut, there's no going back. There was actually in that storyline, they couldn't go back through it.
Interesting. Okay.
They couldn't go back through it. They could only go through it. Whoever went there, they weren't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But they had to keep that portal open, because once it closed, they were never going to get that exact portal back open again and get back there or send anybody else through it. So,
Interesting.
but is that possible that, some future versions of us or whatever have created portals to different points in our past? And that's what these stargates are, these special places
Yeah.
what people see.
Well, and I believe that's entirely possible. I mean, again, with the research that I've done in Egypt, we see the evidence of stargates there, and of course other places across the world. It's just I've done more there in Egypt.
I mean,
the
Iraq,
local
what happened in
call them
Iraq?
stargates.
What happened in Iraq with the military? And when we went and invaded Iraq, we know for
Well,
sure.
Yeah, we stole stuff.
Yeah, we stole stuff.
We had insiders to mark the things that were the power pieces, and we went in there and we got them. So yeah, that was unfortunate. But
people speculate that there was an ancient Stargate, that they were grabbing,
Right.
Stuff like that. That's the internet speculation on what were we
well,
going there.
there's a lot of it's hard to know, right? Because there's so many of these ancient items that have gone missing to time. You look at look at ancient Egypt. So things like you look at the wall friezes, and they're using these giant scepters. They call them the Waz scepters, which Waz means power. So they're scepters of power, and we find little trinkets and little replicas of them, but we don't actually find the original scepters that held this power. We've never find the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt that we see all the kings wear in their depictions. There's so many of these things that have gone lost to time. And when I was there, the first time that I went to Egypt, they had just opened up a new crypt at the Temple of Dendara. Now, when we say crypt, that does not mean it's not a place that held bodies or anything like that. It's
Right.
it's just a location under the temple. The famous one has the quote unquote Dendara light bulb, but they had opened up the other one on the other side of the temple. And they told us we were the first group in there because we came in just after COVID. Apparently nobody had been in there yet. And they're like, yeah, we just opened this up after 20 years.
Wow.
And you're the first ones in there for the first public people in there. Okay, cool. We went down there, we're taking a look, and it was all right. But what I noticed was there's a lot of blocks missing. What's going on with that? And you could see these big white streaks where these blocks had been that had other hieroglyphs and stuff on them.
Right.
And so it's like these were chiseled out. I mean, you're not finding them on the ground or anything like that. This stuff was chiseled out here. What in the world? So when I got back up, I was asking about that. And so one of the guys pulled me off to the side. It was like, well, shh. You're not supposed to talk about this. Not supposed to talk about this. But basically, one of the things that had happened in that 20 years was they had essentially removed the quote unquote power pieces and sold them off to the highest bidders, private collectors. So there are around the world these private collectors that are trying to acquire what they consider to be different power pieces for a variety of different purposes, where they think it's going to give them a long life or actually will give them more actual like powers, like almost like superpowers type things, and this sort of stuff, or will create a better environment around their home and things like this. It's kind of that same concept of what Hitler was doing back during World War II. He was trying to collect all of those ancient artifacts.
Spear of Destiny and
Spear of
Holy
Destiny, all that.
Grail.
He believed it was going to give the Third Reich more power, and there are people that believe that sort of thing, and even to the point of there are people out there that believe that they're descendants of the Anunnaki, and these are their birthright. These are objects that they
worship an old Mesopotamian religion. And that's what they'd be interested in the artifacts rack. Like I said, I've had Dr. Heather Lynn on to talk about that. So it's so fascinating what we were doing and what we were getting there, and what we could have got our hands on. But I mean, I don't think it's the only reason we went to Iraq. I mean, but I think that rich people. I just had a news article in the World Wide Web of Weird tonight where the last one of the articles of the night where a rich person bought for $18,000, $17,000 a immaterial sculpture. It's a box with air. It's literally a glass box with air they bought. So,
nice.
Rich people will spend their money on some stupid things. But you got to wonder if some of these people, like you said, that believe they're ancestors of the Anunnaki, or they worship old Mesopotamian gods. You look at the Bohemian Grove thing; they got Moloch, the big thing there. Like elite societies that have some kind of like special religion. They're out there collecting these like you said power items. They believe in the occult, maybe, I don't know, but screw them. I want to know our human history, and they just took all that stuff out that we could explain so much. Why do they get to know? Yeah, Indiana Jones. Thank you.
Yeah.
We got our very best people working on it, Indy. Like you put it off in the warehouse. Like, museum, right, Indy? You let them take the Ark of Covenant and put it in a warehouse.
Yeah, top people. Yeah,
top men.
Top men. Who? Top men.
Did you like Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull?
It was okay. I mean, it wasn't one of the better ones.
So many people hated it. It wasn't.
I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I didn't hate it.
What I didn't like about it was some of the ridiculous action scenes, like with the monkeys and all that. Some of that.
But I like the premise. See, so many people hated it because of the premise.
Yeah,
but so many people hated it because of that. They thought it was silly. Yeah. I'm like, no, this is great.
Yeah,
this is great.
No, the idea of the crystal skulls, and there were a certain number of them, and there were, I mean, all that. I mean, there are a lot of interesting legends and ideas about the crystal skulls, and I have. Oh my gosh, this was way back in the day where I have touched one of the crystals. People just do all kinds of because you can machine tool the heck out of those things now. But I did touch one of the far older ones. I can't remember how old it was supposed to be. What was his name? Ash? They had like a certain name for him. But I did put my hand on his head and kind of like sat there for a second, and like I was getting all kinds of weird messages and visions and stuff like that in my head. It was pretty wild. So there are some power to the like real crystal skulls like that.
I got to see the Mitchell Hedges. The guy lived in town here in Michigan City, Indiana, that had been given it to it from the woman from Mitchell Hedges' daughter. That held it when she passed on. She gave it to him. Actually, his son, this guy was into martial arts. His son's karate dojo is what my son went to. So he still has it, as far as I know. I tried to get an interview with him. Didn't. I gave his son like, here's my information. Will you give it to your dad? I'd love to talk to him about his crystal skull. And his son's like, not the crystal skull, but his son was cool. His son was like, yeah, it is really a fascinating thing. When we went and saw it, was at this big display he did in Michigan City. He'd finally it's like, I'm gonna do a public display of this thing, which was like, we couldn't miss this. I've been fascinated by crystal skulls, and like, I can't believe this is here in town. That's when I found out this guy lives here that owns it. I'm like, wow. I've been fascinated with crystal skulls ever since I first discovered them, their existence. And here's the Mitchell Hedge, the one I've been most fascinated. It's right in the same town as me,
nice.
Close to town. I think he was in Crown Point, but he presented it here in Michigan City. And you're not supposed to touch it. My wife. She touched it. She said she felt something weird when she touched it, but I was like, "You touched it? You're supposed to touch it." I
would want to touch it too.
I wanted to touch it too, but I had self-control. I can't. But
the real ones definitely have a power to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to talk to one of the owners of another crystal skull, Joanna. She never could come on the show because it was so late, but we used to converse on Facebook about the skull she had. Which one was it? Max. I think it was Max is the one she had, but she got hers from Tibetan monks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, crazy weird stuff around that skull, and she'd show me photos and stuff. I'm like, God, come on my show. I think she's passed away now, but these things, what are they? I know we went away from time travel, but I couldn't help but ask, because I think in the end of in the end of Crystal Skull, it doesn't even remember right. They kind of alluded that they were really us from the future too. That they're just aliens.
Yeah, to a degree, and the whole idea of she wants to know, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna give it to you, and it basically, literally, like blows her mind.
Yeah, I love that. Sadly, the last movie, another item. You and Heather Lynn, I did watch her podcast. She's got a great new YouTube channel where she's doing a show. What's the name?
Midnight Academy.
Midnight Academy. She brought up the other Indiana Jones movie item is the Anathea or Antathea, or you say it, the Greek first computer, as maybe possible evidence of time travel, because this thing's way beyond its
out
time.
Of place. Yeah, it's one of those that we call an out of place artifact. Because this thing is like, well, I mean, on the ship where it was found, that was a 2,000-year-old shipwreck. The device itself is hard to date. So, but they're estimating that it's 2,000 years old because that's the ship that it was found on. But is it far older than that, or was it something that came and ended up in our world from the future? And you find some different items like that around the globe, like the London Hammer and other things like what was that crazy metal wedge that was found out in Romania?
There's a little watch too.
Yeah,
like in Benedict Stone, it's like a little watch, and there's a screw too. There's a there's a number of things we found.
The screw,
yeah. There's a number of things we found that are way beyond when humans should have been doing anything. Or been around, or even a thought. It makes you wonder again. Terra Nova, are we? Some future us opening up portals to way in the past.
I'm right on board that there are, ancient civilizations that have been lost to time, that there have been multiple cataclysms. And I love that Graham Hancock got a second season of Ancient Apocalypse.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. And he's taken so much heat for talking about this. We're a species with amnesia. There was a cataclysm. There are, lost civilizations, this sort of thing. And with, all the research that I've been doing with, the Atlantis tale and relating it to Egypt and all that. Well, you look at Plato, okay?
Right.
And he even has the same thing right in there where Sanches was actually the Greek philosopher that came to Egypt and learned from those guys. And the Egyptian priest is telling Sanches, like, you guys, you Greeks are but little children. There have been many cataclysms. We've gone and done this many, many times. Our civilization has kind of been hanging around and taking note of these things. You guys are children. So Plato's even talking about, yes, this has happened. Civilization has gone through all these cycles to rise and fall, get obliterated. And so those other civilizations, what did they develop in the far, far distant past? And every once in a while, we get a glimpse of one of those items.
Just something to survive. I mean, just think about it. Like, life after people shows you how quickly things disappear.
Yeah.
If humans just suddenly disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
Things would turn to dust.
Disintegrate. Yeah. Well, and all those people, and my heart goes out to them, Asheville, North Carolina. And we see what nature can do in an instant like that.
Water is one of the biggest things. Could just wipe away something you would hardly know it was there. I mean, obliterate stuff.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart. It's hard to go through my Facebook feed, seeing all the
seeing all the photos. Yeah, it's tough.
And then the missing people posts is heartbreaking. So many. I think there's like how many? Like 100 confirmed dead, 300 missing, or something.
Yeah, the number keeps rising.
They're going to keep changing. It's a national emergency.
Yeah,
and we need some really good response here. People are going to need a lot of help. But yeah, it just shows you the destruction of nature, what it could do, and how it could wipe out a whole civilization. Land movements. I mean, Atlantis again. A whole civilization could have existed there. I mean, but again, if there was all these things are constant, like again, the eternal return. Like we're going back and influencing our past and doing it over and over again in a sense. Like we look at it as one time frame. Like some future of us goes back in the past, changes things, but then that new change comes back and goes back again and changes things some more. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't know what there could be all kinds of effects, all things in our history tied to time travel in a sense. It could be the final factor of explaining a lot of things, not everything in the paranormal realm, but a lot of things.
Explains a number of things. Yes. Yeah.
So you got your next book is coming out in October.
Right.
And what's it going to be called, or do you have a title?
That's Portals to the Stars, Inside Stargates, Atlantis, and Secrets of Ancient Egypt.
Yeah, and
so it's going to cover actually a lot of the portal and Stargate type stuff that we were talking about this evening, and some of the Atlantis stuff here toward the end. Yeah, it's going to cover all that.
Well, last time I think you were on, you tried to talk me into taking a trip to Egypt with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I just posted that for next year's tour. So November 2025, we're going back again. So if you are still interested, we also have
I'm always interested.
Come on. We also have a tour to the Black Forest in Germany in April.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was
gonna
really cool.
That is cool. I mean, like, what are you going to be doing with the Black Forest, or what are some of the sites you're going to be?
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of castles. We're going to be following like the trail of the Brothers Grimm and a lot of their legends and influences. Of course, since we're going to be right there in the area, we're going to do the cuckoo clocks and all that. And I have a lot of family ties to that area too, so it's kind of really personal, and special for me.
German.
So, yeah.
I'm
my
German
grandmother's
Irish. I would love to go see Ireland and Germany. Especially the Black Forest. Oh my God! See, I had a guest recently tell me, he's like, "You're going to travel. It's in your future. You're meant to travel." I'm like, I don't feel like it. The reason I do this show is I get to live vicariously through you guys, like through you. Like you and your travels. You're such a great researcher. You cover. I believe you're going to cover a lot more topics. I always, like I said, I always enjoy. Me and my wife, our ritual usually to go to sleep in bed is get on Roku, put on Ancient Aliens, let it play. And I always smile when I see Mike Ricksecker pop up on Ancient Aliens, or other people like Nick Redfern or others that I've had on the show from there. It's like, oh, there's Mike. Especially the Shadow Person episode. It's great.
That was a really good one. Yeah, they like to replay that one a lot. So
they do. It comes up. Like say, I'm going to bed, and then the Shadow Person episode comes up. I'm like, oh, there's Mike. And that's I feel like I connected with you on that because years ago you were like, tell me about your Shadow Person experience, and never did you know I was going to give you 52 freaking pages.
That was a long story, but it was great. No, I appreciated you contributing that. Yeah.
Well, writing is something I used to do a lot of, and you kind of got me to you pushed me to express that story, get that out of me, which was like. It made me think about
really
stuff.
Therapeutic for you,
right? Exactly what it was. It was there. It made me really come to terms with that. In some sense, I still have a billion questions about it, and afterwards, kind of like opened up other questions because I've had Terry Lovelace on Incident Devil's Den, and me and him talked. We were talking, and he tells me about shadow people experiences that he has. Being an abductee, and I think about it after. I mentioned. All this stuff happened after a camping trip, the Shadow Person. I thought about this now, years later. It all happened after a camping trip where I might have been abducted. I had a dream where I was lifted by my tent. And we actually saw, when I woke up that morning, a UFO or bright light or something come through the forest floor. And the same person I was with then is the same person that dealt with this whole Shadow Person thing later. It's like, is it alien? Because I always felt this thing was alien, many questions, so many things to talk about.
Yeah, because a lot of, again, with the shadow people, they can be a lot of different things. So extraterrestrial is definitely one. I mean, the one that because I've had a lot of shadow experiences, but the very first one, that ended up being what we would call an interdimensional person or interdimensional being. It actually said it was from another space, but basically it was an interdimensional being that was on a research mission from somewhere else in the cosmos or some other dimension. Again, we don't quite understand what that is, but on a research mission to study humanity, and just happened to pick, bedroom of sleeping child that night. Okay.
And mine was a sadistic a-hole that knew everything about me and tortured me to the brink. Like some of these things I think are parasitic. There's so many things beyond us that we're interacting with we don't have any clue with every day.
And mine just walked over me and didn't hurt me at all.
Yeah.
There's so many different experiences with shadow people, Hat Man, and all that stuff. So, again, another thing you guys got to check out. What's the name of the book on shadow people?
A Walk in the Shadows.
Walk in the Shadows. Thank you. Yeah. That's another book you guys should check out from Mike Ricksecker on Amazon. Any other last information you want to get out to the audience?
I mean, my website is mikericksecker.com. Again, we have the different tours coming up. I have a Portals to the Stars special event. It's Connecting to the Universe special event, but it's called the Portals to the Stars event because it's going to be my first book signing for that book. Rahway, New Jersey on November 9th at the Merchants and Drovers Tavern Museum. And so it's going to be the first place you can get a signed book from me for that. So that is November 9th. Yeah.
One of these
find
days,
all that information out on my website, MikeRicksecker.com.
One of these days, when my kids are older, I will be traveling more. One of these days, we'll have to meet up somewhere. I know you mentioned when I first had you on, you tried to get me to meet up with you somewhere. It was like, it's not happening, man. One of these days, we'll go investigate somewhere, or go to some ancient site together, or I'll get to go to Egypt on one of your great trips there.
Yes.
I want to do that. I got my wife on an airplane finally. I think my last excuse was my wife won't fly. I did get her on one, and she just took one flight. And then all this stuff started happening with Boeing that hasn't helped my cause. But I might get her back on a plane one day. maybe not a Boeing plane, but something, to fly out to go see Egypt or whatever. Well, thank you, Mike, so much for being on the show. Like I said, me and Jamie couldn't wait to have you on tonight. Talk about my favorite subject, time travel. Check out his book, guys. Travels Through Time, Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel and Stacked Time Theory by Mike Ricksecker. Plenty other material by him, too. You guys got to check out. Thank you, Mike, so much for being on the show. Definitely want to get you back on and talk more about stargates and portals one day here in the future, too.
Absolutely.
So, all right, looking forward to your next book. Thank you, guys. We will be back next Sunday. We will have Ryan Edwards, cryptozoologist. We're going to talk about his new book, Beyond Bigfoot, The Other Primates of North America, next Sunday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Follow and subscribe. Thank you to all those who share out the show. And thank you to my Patreons out there who help donate to the show. $1 a month, $2 a month does help pay the bills. Thank you to those who donate on Super Chat as well. Again, helps pay the bills for the shows. All right, guys. Have a great night. See you next Sunday.